In the quiet landscapes of 18th century Scotland, where mist drifted across fields and the rhythm of daily life moved with patient calm, a young mind was beginning to see the world differently. James Watt did not chase noise, nor did he crave the attention of crowds. Instead, he observed the subtle movements of nature and the silent mechanisms of everyday work, sensing patterns that most people passed without notice. While others saw simple tasks or familiar machines, Watt saw opportunity, spaces where improvement could bloom quietly, shaped by thought rather than spectacle. He grew up surrounded by the steady sounds of craftsmanship, the soft scrape of tools, the gentle tap of a workbench, the hum of careful hands shaping wood and metal. These sounds were not loud or forceful, yet they held meaning. They taught him patience, precision, and the art of discovering truth in the details. Watt learned early that great ideas rarely arrive in bursts of brilliance. Instead, they emerge slowly, like steam gathering warmth before it rises. In these calm surroundings, his fascination with instruments and mechanisms deepened. He would hold a compass or a lens with the same quiet wonder someone else might reserve for a precious stone. Every hinge, every gear, every movement whispered a secret about how the world worked. These moments formed the foundation of a mind that would one day transform industry, reshape cities, and accelerate human progress. Yet none of it came with noise or chaos. Watt's revolution would begin in silence. Years later, when he encountered the humble Newcomen steam engine, Watt did not dismiss it as an outdated device or a relic of heavy industry. Instead, he listened to it. He felt its inefficiencies, sensed its struggles, and understood its potential. In the soft hiss of steam and the slow rise of its piston, Watt heard possibility. With patience as his guide, he began improving what others considered good enough, finally creating an engine so efficient and elegant that it would power an entire era. And so, in the gentle unfolding of this story, we invite you to step into the quiet world of James Watt, the thinker, the tinkerer, the patient improver who helped ignite the Industrial Revolution not through force, but through calm, persistent curiosity. As you settle in, let his journey drift over you like a soft lullaby of invention, steady, peaceful, and filled with quiet wonder. James Watt's childhood unfolded quietly along the misty coastline of Greenock, where soft waves touched the shore with rhythmic calm. He grew up surrounded by the gentle sounds of his father's workshop, a place where wood, brass, and iron were shaped with patient hands. Watt spent hours observing the slow, careful motions of craftsmen, absorbing lessons about precision long before he understood their importance. These early moments planted the first seeds of curiosity, teaching him that even simple mechanisms carried stories waiting to be discovered. The quiet nature of his upbringing allowed Watt's mind to wander freely, drifting between imagination and observation with effortless grace. He often sat alone near the window, watching the fog roll across the harbor while pondering the invisible forces shaping the world. Watt found comfort in solitude, preferring the peaceful company of tools and instruments to the busy chatter of other children. His gentle temperament made him an observer of life rather than a participant, nurturing a depth of thought that would later guide his inventions. His mother encouraged his early interest in learning, offering books and moments of calm conversation that helped him build confidence in his ideas. She recognized that her son possessed a mind tuned toward understanding rather than memorizing, and she supported his natural way of thinking. Watt's fascination with geometry and natural philosophy grew steadily, strengthened by the patient guidance she provided. These quiet moments at home formed a foundation of emotional stability, allowing him to explore the world without fear of failure or judgment. Watt's father also played a subtle yet meaningful role, giving him access to the workshop and trusting him with small tools that most adults would have kept out of reach. This gentle trust encouraged Watt to tinker freely, taking apart small objects to understand their inner workings. He learned that improvement often began with curiosity rather than perfection, a lesson that echoed through every invention he would later create. These early experiences shaped his belief that solving problems required patience, humility, and an open mind. As he grew older, Watt's interests deepened in ways that reflected his thoughtful personality. He became fascinated by the workings of compasses, telescopes, and simple mechanical toys, studying them with the same calm attention others reserved for art or poetry. Every part, every hinge, wheel, and lever felt like a puzzle waiting to be understood. Watt found joy in the quiet challenge of understanding how things moved. Seeing patterns in motion that others overlooked, this gentle fascination with mechanisms formed the earliest layers of his inventive spirit. Watt's teachers noticed his unusual abilities, though many misunderstood his quiet nature as disinterest rather than deep concentration. He learned differently from his peers, not through rote instruction, but through careful observation and reflective thought. When a concept captured his attention, he explored it with remarkable depth, often surpassing his classmates without appearing to try. These moments revealed a mind not driven by competition, but by the desire to understand the world at its most subtle levels, preparing him for the discoveries that lay ahead. During these formative years, Scotland itself played a quiet role in shaping his thinking. The soft rains, the rolling hills, and the gentle rhythm of coastal life taught him to appreciate patterns in nature that mirrored the patterns in machines. Watt often walked alone through the countryside, absorbing the stillness while reflecting on problems he wished to solve. These peaceful explorations gave his thoughts room to breathe, forming the early mental habits that allowed him to approach invention with calm clarity. The combination of solitude, supportive family, and early exposure to craftsmanship created an environment where Watt's emerging talents could grow naturally. He learned to think slowly and carefully, valuing accuracy over speed and depth over display. Every quiet moment added to his inner library of understanding, shaping a mind that would one day transform entire industries. Watt did not yet know how far his thoughts would travel, but the foundation of his future rested gently within these early peaceful years. As Watt entered adolescence, his curiosity deepened in ways that revealed the subtle maturity forming within him. He spent long evenings at his father's bench, gently polishing brass instruments or studying the movement of gears under lantern light. These quiet sessions strengthened his ability to observe patterns with extraordinary patience, turning simple objects into windows of understanding. Watt's calm focus made even the smallest details feel essential, allowing him to notice relationships between motion and resistance that others rarely recognized. His health, however, remained delicate, often keeping him indoors while other boys played outside. Instead of feeling isolated, Watt used these moments to explore books, diagrams, and problems that nourished his growing mind. Illness taught him to treat his thoughts as companions, allowing ideas to unfold slowly during quiet hours of rest. This inner stillness became one of his greatest strengths, shaping a style of learning rooted in calm reflection rather than forceful effort. Watt developed a love for mathematics during this period, finding comfort in the steady logic that guided numbers and shapes. He practiced geometry with gentle discipline, tracing lines and angles with the same care he used when shaping tools. The consistency of mathematics reassured him, offering a stable framework that mirrored the mechanical principles he admired. These early studies planted seeds that would later support his most important discoveries, connecting the abstract world of numbers to the tangible world of machines. Despite his quiet nature, Watt formed meaningful connections with a few mentors who recognized his growing abilities. Local craftsmen admired his precision, noting how he understood tools not merely as objects, but as extensions of purposeful thought. These early relationships gave him access to more complex instruments, encouraging him to test his limits through careful experimentation. Watt approached each opportunity with humility, aware that mastery required both patience and respect for the craft. His father eventually entrusted him with small commissions, allowing him to repair or craft minor items for visitors and locals. Each task became a chance to refine his skills, revealing how small improvements could make a significant difference in function. Watt learned that craftsmanship was not about grand gestures, but about subtle decisions, tiny adjustments in pressure, alignment, or polish that transformed a simple object into something truly reliable. These lessons would guide him for the rest of his life, shaping the careful mindset he brought to every invention. Watt's world expanded further when he encountered stories of scientific explorers and natural philosophers whose ideas awakened new possibilities in his imagination. He read about experiments with electricity, air pressure, and mechanical motion, absorbing these discoveries with quiet excitement. Though he lived far from academic centers, Watt felt connected to the broader currents of knowledge flowing across Europe. These readings taught him that invention was not limited by geography, but by the willingness to observe, question, and imagine. As he approached early adulthood, Watt realized that he needed formal training to pursue the craft he loved. His desire to learn instrument making, the delicate art of shaping mathematical and navigational tools, became the guiding force of his next chapter. This ambition pushed him beyond the calm familiarity of Greenock, encouraging him to seek instruction from skilled masters who could refine his abilities. The thought of leaving home filled him with both nervousness and quiet determination, marking the beginning of a journey that would lead him towards his place in history. With his family's support, Watt prepared to step beyond the gentle rhythms of his coastal childhood. He carried with him the patience of the workshop, the curiosity of a young thinker, and the subtle wisdom gathered from years of quiet observation. The road ahead would challenge him in ways he could not yet imagine, but his foundation was strong, built from silence, shaped by wonder, and strengthened through a lifetime of gentle discovery. His next steps would guide him toward the work that would one day transform the modern world. James Watt left Greenock with a quiet mixture of hesitation and hope, carrying only a few tools, a handful of books, and the gentle confidence shaped by years of careful observation. The journey to Glasgow felt long and reflective, giving him time to imagine the new world he was about to enter. He understood that mastering the craft of instrument making required discipline and humility, yet he felt ready for the slow, deliberate work ahead. Watt's thoughts moved calmly between possibility and uncertainty, grounded by the patient curiosity that had guided him since childhood. Upon arriving in Glasgow, Watt discovered a city alive with voices, commerce, and the steady pulse of intellectual life. The contrast from his coastal hometown was striking, yet he felt drawn to the quiet corners of the university, where ideas gathered like soft embers waiting to be stirred. Watt spent hours visiting workshops and speaking with craftsmen, absorbing every detail of the tools and techniques around him. Though still young, he navigated the new environment with a thoughtful gentleness, allowing knowledge to settle naturally rather than forcing it. It soon became clear that Glasgow lacked a formal apprenticeship in the delicate art of mathematical instrument making, leaving Watt uncertain of his next step. Instead of feeling discouraged, he returned to his habit of quiet observation, studying the instruments in libraries and examining the work of skilled makers when he could. These moments strengthened his resolve, reminding him that mastery often began in places where opportunities were scarce. Watt approached each day with purposeful patience, trusting that the right path would emerge in time. After months of searching, Watt learned of a master instrument maker in London who accepted only a few apprentices, each chosen with great care. The news stirred both excitement and apprehension within him, for London felt distant and overwhelming compared to Scotland's calm landscapes. Still, Watt recognized that this opportunity aligned with his deepest aspirations. He prepared himself with quiet determination, gathering recommendations and refining his skills to ensure he would be worthy of acceptance. The long journey to London revealed a world much larger than Watt had ever imagined, filled with new technologies, bustling streets, and ideas in constant motion. Yet beneath the noise, he sought out the same quiet spaces that had always helped him think: a workshop corner, a quiet alley, or a moment beside a window overlooking the city. These gentle pauses allowed him to maintain his sense of inner balance, preventing the unfamiliar world from overwhelming his calm, methodical nature. When Watt finally met the master craftsman, he approached with respectful humility, aware that his future depended on this single impression. The craftsman examined his small collection of handmade tools, noting the precision and care etched into every surface. Although Watt lacked formal training, the master recognized the extraordinary attention to detail that set him apart from ordinary applicants. He accepted Watt into his workshop, sensing that the young man possessed not only talent, but the quiet temperament required for true mastery. Watt entered his apprenticeship with a mindset shaped by patience rather than ambition. He studied each task slowly and attentively, from grinding lenses to polishing brass arcs, learning how precision emerged from steady hands and focused thought. The workshop became a sanctuary where he could lose himself in the gentle rhythm of craftsmanship, appreciating how every instrument carried a subtle harmony between form and function. These early lessons deepened his respect for the tools that measured the world, shaping his approach to invention with quiet discipline. As the months passed, Watt's skills grew with remarkable steadiness. He learned not only how to craft instruments, but how to understand the mathematical principles behind them, each measurement, curve, and calibration reflecting a larger truth about nature. Watt felt his mind expand with each new discovery, absorbing knowledge with the same gentle curiosity that had guided him since childhood. Though his journey toward mastery was only beginning, he sensed that his future work would rely on this foundation of thoughtful, deliberate craft. Watt's apprenticeship unfolded with a quiet rhythm that shaped both his hands and his mind, allowing him to absorb each lesson at a pace that suited his thoughtful nature. He spent long hours at the workshop bench, gently shaping brass, polishing arcs, and aligning delicate components until they responded with perfect harmony. Every task became an exercise in patience, teaching him that true mastery never rushed, but emerged through steady refinement. These moments strengthened his ability to concentrate deeply, letting him lose himself in the soft glow of lamplight and the peaceful hum of craftsmanship. As he improved, the master entrusted him with more complex instruments, quadrants, compasses, and sextants that required precise understanding of both geometry and mechanics. Watt found himself drawn to their quiet elegance, admiring how mathematical principles became physical reality in polished brass and carefully carved wood. The more he worked, the more he recognized that instruments were not mere tools, but bridges between thought and action. This realization deepened his respect for the craft, allowing him to approach each project with a calm sense of responsibility. During quieter moments in the workshop, Watt studied the master's older instruments, examining the wear patterns and tiny imperfections that revealed years of use. He learned that no instrument was perfect, yet each held a quiet story about the hands that used it and the journeys it guided. Watt felt a sense of companionship with these objects, sensing that they shared the same language of careful attention that defined his own character. These reflections shaped his understanding of durability, precision, and the silent partnership between maker and user. The bustle of London contrasted sharply with the workshop's serene world, yet Watt navigated both environments with a steady, thoughtful presence. He often sought moments of stillness by observing street mechanisms, clock towers, water pumps, and pulley systems that worked quietly amid the city's noise. Each device offered a new lesson about efficiency, friction, and motion, allowing Watt to connect workshop principles with real-world applications. These observations planted early inklings of ideas he would later revisit on a much larger scale. Though London challenged him with its relentless pace, Watt found comfort in the consistency of his training. He followed the master's guidance with steady dedication, always striving to improve without drawing attention to himself. Watt learned how to soften rough edges, how to shape metal without creating stress lines, and how to calibrate instruments so precisely that even the slightest misalignment became meaningful. Over time, he developed a reputation for quiet reliability, the kind of apprentice who absorbed knowledge deeply and worked with unwavering care. Despite his progress, Watt occasionally struggled with loneliness, missing the peaceful landscapes and familiar voices of Scotland. To ease this, he wrote long letters to his family, describing his work with gentle enthusiasm and sharing moments of discovery he wished they could witness. These letters became a source of comfort, reminding him that his journey was supported by love and belief from home. The emotional balance they provided helped him stay grounded, nurturing the calm temperament that would define his later achievements. As his skills matured, Watt began to notice inefficiencies in certain instruments, small inconsistencies that others accepted as normal. Instead of ignoring them, he quietly experimented with ways to improve their accuracy. He adjusted hinges, refined calibrations, and explored alternative materials that might reduce friction or wear. These small improvements reflected the emerging foundation of his inventive spirit, revealing how naturally he gravitated toward problem-solving through gentle innovation rather than dramatic change. The master noticed Watt's growing confidence and encouraged him to attempt independent projects under supervision. These assignments challenged Watt to apply everything he had learned, from mechanical principles to the subtleties of finishing and calibration. He approached each task with calm determination, often staying after hours to refine an instrument until it felt seamless in his hands. This dedication impressed the master, who began to trust Watt with work typically reserved for more experienced craftspeople. As Watt neared the end of his apprenticeship, he encountered new challenges that tested his patience and adaptability. Some instruments required changes in design when minor flaws revealed themselves late in the process, forcing him to rethink solutions he had grown attached to. Watt learned to accept these setbacks with quiet resilience, understanding that correction was not failure, but refinement. This mindset would later become essential when tackling far more complex mechanical problems. Toward the final months of his training, Watt worked on instruments for maritime navigation, tools that would guide ships across vast oceans. The weight of this responsibility filled him with both humility and pride, knowing that sailors would rely on his craftsmanship during long and uncertain journeys. He approached each piece with heightened care, ensuring that every component worked in harmonious precision. These projects reinforced his sense of purpose, reminding him that craftsmanship was not merely technical, it was a service to others. Despite the master's praise, Watt recognized that his health had been worn down by London's environment. The city's damp air, crowded streets, and demanding work pace strained his fragile constitution, making rest a necessity he could no longer ignore. He began to feel a quiet pull back toward Scotland, where the calmer climate and slower rhythm might restore his strength. This desire for balance further deepened his understanding of himself, reminding him that invention required both mental clarity and physical well-being. When his apprenticeship came to an end, Watt returned home with a mixture of relief and quiet accomplishment. He carried with him a small collection of tools, each one shaped by hours of practice, and the accumulated wisdom of gentle meticulous craft. His return felt like stepping back into familiar calm, yet he was no longer the boy who had left Greenock. He had become a skilled instrument maker, shaped by discipline, observation, and the subtle artistry of precision. Watt sensed that his journey was entering its next chapter. Upon returning to Scotland, Watt discovered that opportunities for instrument makers were limited. Universities and wealthy patrons had access to tools from England and the continent, making local demand unpredictable. Yet Watt approached this challenge with characteristic patience, deciding to create opportunities rather than chase them. He repaired instruments, offered small commissions, and continued experimenting quietly in his spare time. Each task, no matter how small, became another step toward building a foundation for the future. His refined abilities soon caught the attention of several professors at the University of Glasgow, who admired the elegance and accuracy of his work. They recognized in Watt a craftsman with an unusually thoughtful approach, someone who combined mechanical skill with a deep understanding of mathematical principles. Their support opened doors that had previously been closed, granting Watt access to the university's equipment, libraries, and intellectual community. This environment nurtured him in ways no formal apprenticeship could, bringing him into contact with ideas that would shape his greatest discoveries. Watt explored the university with the same quiet curiosity that had guided his childhood. He attended lectures, observed experiments, and engaged in gentle discussions with scholars who welcomed his thoughtful insights. Instead of seeking recognition, he absorbed knowledge slowly and carefully, letting concepts settle into his mind like soft ripples across still water. This period marked a subtle transformation as his role shifted from craftsman to thinker, preparing him for the monumental invention that would define his place in history. By establishing himself within Glasgow's intellectual circles, Watt discovered a balance between craftsmanship and scientific inquiry that felt uniquely suited to his temperament. The campus offered both inspiration and tranquility, giving him space to think deeply while remaining connected to practical problems that needed solving. His workshop became a quiet refuge where mathematical instruments, metal tools, and scattered notes coexisted in peaceful disorder. Here, in this gentle convergence of thought and craft, the first faint ideas of a more efficient engine began to form, ideas that would one day reshape the world. Watt's return to life at the University of Glasgow brought him into an atmosphere where curiosity thrived quietly in every corridor. Scholars debated ideas in gentle tones, students carried instruments under their arms, and the laboratories hummed with slow experimentation. Watt moved through these spaces with a quiet sense of belonging, appreciating how knowledge unfolded patiently rather than abruptly. This peaceful environment suited him perfectly, allowing his thoughts to wander freely between mathematics, mechanics, and the deeper mysteries of motion that had begun to capture his attention. He spent many afternoons repairing mathematical instruments for professors, each task deepening his understanding of the relationship between precision and accuracy. These repairs were not simple fixes. They were lessons in how small imperfections created large errors and how careful craftsmanship could restore harmony. Watt approached each instrument with respect, sensing that every curve and hinge had been shaped by years of thoughtful work. The process strengthened his belief that improvement was always possible, even in objects considered complete. During this period, Watt formed friendships with several members of the faculty, particularly those who recognized his unusual combination of practical skill and theoretical interest. They invited him to observe lectures and participate in quiet discussions about natural philosophy, mathematics, and the emerging field of mechanics. These conversations opened new pathways in his mind, connecting his hands-on craft with broader questions about how machines borrowed motion from nature. Watt absorbed these ideas slowly and deeply, letting them settle like patterns forming in still water. His curiosity soon gravitated toward the study of heat, pressure, and the invisible force that gave rise to steam. Professors introduced him to the principles behind early engines, explaining how boiling water created motion through expansion and condensation. Though Watt listened quietly, he felt something awakening inside him, an intuition that these principles held room for improvement. He sensed inefficiencies not as flaws, but as invitations, gentle signals that encouraged deeper exploration beyond what was already known. The turning point arrived when the university received a small model of the Newcomen steam engine, a machine used widely in mines to pump water. The model had been shipped for demonstration purposes, yet it arrived in a fragile and worn condition, barely able to function. When professors struggled to repair it, Watt was asked to examine the device, not for invention, but simply to restore it to working order. He accepted the task with calm humility, unaware that this modest request would redirect the course of his life. The first time Watt saw the Newcomen model in person, he approached it with the same gentle reverence he offered to all instruments. He studied its cylinder, piston, and valves with slow, thoughtful observation, tracing the path of steam as it entered and condensed. Unlike its earlier viewers, Watt did not see a crude or outdated machine. He saw a puzzle waiting to be understood, a mechanism whispering its imperfections through every movement. This quiet moment marked the beginning of his most transformative insight. He spent several days cleaning, repairing, and testing the model, gaining a deeper appreciation for its strengths as well as its limitations. Watt noticed how the engine consumed an enormous amount of heat with each cycle, as the cylinder was repeatedly cooled and reheated. This inefficiency did not frustrate him. Instead, it filled him with a curious calm, as though the machine were offering clues about how it wished to be improved. His mind began to drift into new possibilities, small adjustments, alternative paths, and unseen potentials. During his testing, Watt performed a series of careful experiments, measuring temperature changes and observing the rhythm of the piston's movement. He treated the steam not as a simple byproduct of boiling water, but as a fundamental force deserving respect and study. With each observation, he grew more aware of how the engine wasted energy, losing power through fluctuating temperatures and unnecessary heat loss. These insights formed slowly, shaped by the patient habits he had developed since childhood. Watt found himself returning to the engine even after university work had ended for the day. Drawn by the quiet mystery it presented, he sat beside the model in the calm glow of lamplight, listening to the soft hiss of cooling steam and feeling the subtle vibration of its struggling piston. These solitary moments fueled his imagination, allowing him to sense possibilities beyond the machine's crude form. The engine became a companion, a teacher of sorts, guiding him toward a deeper understanding of its nature. As his observations accumulated, Watt realized that the core problem lay not in the engine's moving parts, but in its method of condensing steam inside the same cylinder used for heating. This constant temperature cycling acted like a long, slow drag on every motion the engine attempted. The recognition came to him not with excitement, but with quiet clarity, settling gently into his thoughts, like a truth that had been waiting patiently to be found. He understood that if the cylinder could remain hot while condensation happened elsewhere, the engine would transform. This idea marked the first spark of Watt's greatest discovery, yet it did not erupt in sudden triumph. Instead, it spread through his mind like a warm glow, encouraging him to explore further without urgency or expectation. He began sketching early concepts, imagining a separate chamber where steam could condense without interrupting the engine's rhythm. These sketches were simple, but they represented a shift from repair to invention, a step he took naturally, guided by the calm, methodical nature that had always defined him. Watt shared his early thoughts with a few trusted professors, describing the inefficiency he had noticed and the possibility of separating the processes of heating and cooling. They listened with interest, recognizing the quiet brilliance underlying his observations. Though some doubted that such a change could be implemented easily, they encouraged him to continue exploring the idea. Their support strengthened Watt's resolve, reaffirming that careful thought held value even when the path ahead remained uncertain. In the days that followed, Watt conducted further experiments with small glass vessels, tubes, and water, testing how steam behaved under different conditions. He observed how quickly heat disappeared when exposed to colder surfaces and how condensation formed patterns that revealed deeper truths about thermodynamics. Each observation became a stepping stone, guiding him gently toward a more complete understanding of the principles that governed the engine's performance. Watt approached each experiment like a quiet conversation with nature itself. Watt's mind, shaped by years of thoughtful craftsmanship, began weaving these observations into a cohesive solution. He imagined a condenser separate from the main cylinder, a place where steam could collapse back into water without forcing the engine to lose heat. This idea unfolded with graceful simplicity, reflecting the calm clarity he brought to every mechanical challenge. He did not rush to build it. Instead, he refined the concept patiently, giving it space to mature through gentle reflection. As winter turned to spring, Watt felt the idea solidify into something both practical and profound. His years of studying tools, learning precision, and observing patterns had prepared him for this moment. Though he did not seek praise or recognition, he simply understood that the new Coleman engine could be improved and that the world might change quietly because of it. His path toward invention emerged not from ambition, but from the soft, persistent curiosity that had guided him since childhood. Watt's realization about the separate condenser stayed with him long after he left the university grounds each evening. He carried the idea like a quiet ember, warm but not urgent, turning it over in his mind as he walked through Glasgow's mist-covered streets. He sensed that the principle was sound, yet he knew the road from concept to working model would require patience, care, and the willingness to confront unexpected difficulties. Watt approached this challenge with the same gentle discipline that had shaped all his earlier learning. He began by gathering small pieces of metal, glass, and tubing from the university stores, constructing miniature versions of the systems he wished to test. Each attempt revealed something new: how quickly heat escaped, how condensation formed on cold surfaces, and how steam behaved under varying pressures. These experiments felt less like engineering and more like meditation, allowing Watt to enter a state of steady concentration where time softened and clarity emerged naturally. The laboratory became a sanctuary where ideas matured at their own pace. Watt documented every experiment with meticulous detail, filling pages with sketches, temperature notes, and observations about the behavior of steam. He approached the subject with a mixture of curiosity and humility, recognizing that nature revealed its secrets only to those who listened carefully. These notes later formed the foundation of his breakthrough, but at the time they simply reflected a mind gently unraveling a mystery. Watt took comfort in this slow process, trusting that progress would come through patience rather than force. As his ideas grew clearer, Watt realized he needed a deeper understanding of thermodynamics, a field still in its infancy. He revisited mathematical principles and consulted with professors, seeking quiet conversations that helped bridge the gap between theory and practice. These discussions unfolded not as debates, but as shared explorations, with each participant contributing thoughtful insights. Watt felt grateful for these moments, recognizing how much his work depended on the calm generosity of others. One afternoon, while walking across Glasgow Green, Watt found himself contemplating steam's ability to expand with remarkable force. The gentle rhythm of his footsteps matched the steady unfolding of his thoughts, guiding him into a state of clarity. He envisioned the engine not as a simple pump, but as a machine capable of harnessing energy more efficiently than ever before. The idea expanded through him like breath, soft and natural, yet carrying profound significance. This quiet walk became one of the defining moments of his intellectual journey. Returning to his workshop with renewed purpose, Watt began constructing a more detailed model of his proposed engine. He shaped metal tubes with careful hands, ensuring each connection remained airtight and each chamber responded predictably to heat. The work demanded concentration, yet it also brought him joy, a feeling born from watching imagination take physical form. As the pieces came together, Watt sensed that he was building more than an engine. He was constructing a bridge to a new era of mechanical power. Early tests of his model revealed both promise and difficulty. The separate condenser worked in principle, but creating a system that maintained consistent temperature while managing steam flow proved challenging. Watt did not feel discouraged. Instead, he viewed each obstacle as part of a natural progression toward understanding. He refined his design slowly, adjusting proportions, smoothing surfaces, and experimenting with different materials until the engine responded with greater harmony. These delicate improvements became the quiet heartbeat of his work. Friends at the university visited his workshop occasionally, observing his experiments with respectful curiosity. They admired his dedication, noting how calmly he approached each problem and how steadily he moved through setbacks. Watt welcomed their company, valuing the gentle exchange of ideas that often sparked new insights. These quiet visits strengthened his sense of belonging, showing him that invention was not a solitary pursuit, but a collective journey shaped by shared curiosity. As his model improved, Watt found himself increasingly preoccupied with the question of scale. He understood the principles well enough to build a small demonstration, but translating the design into a full-sized engine required resources far beyond his modest means. The realization brought a momentary sense of heaviness, yet Watt did not allow it to cloud his resolve. He trusted that the right opportunities would emerge through patience and continued effort, just as they had throughout his earlier life. During this period, he sought advice from experienced craftsmen and engineers, listening carefully to their perspectives without allowing doubt to overshadow his intuition. Some expressed skepticism about redesigning the Newcomen engine, while others encouraged him to pursue his ideas with quiet confidence. Watt absorbed these contrasting views, recognizing that invention often traveled a path lined with both belief and uncertainty. Their insights helped him refine his approach, narrowing his focus on the most achievable steps forward. Watt began constructing a slightly larger experimental engine, one that would allow him to test the separate condenser under more realistic conditions. The process required long hours of careful assembly, calibrating joints, sealing valves, and testing the piston's movement. He worked slowly, ensuring that every component aligned perfectly with his theoretical expectations. The resulting machine, though crude in appearance, represented a significant milestone in his journey, a physical embodiment of months of thought and observation. When he tested this version, the results were encouraging. The engine consumed noticeably less fuel, ran more smoothly, and maintained a consistent rhythm that reflected improved efficiency. The condenser, separated from the main cylinder, allowed the piston to operate without losing heat between strokes. Watt felt a calm surge of satisfaction as he watched the machine move with newfound grace. It was not yet perfect, but the potential was undeniable, shining through each measured cycle. Despite this progress, Watt faced practical challenges that demanded immediate attention. His limited funds restricted the materials he could use, and the tools he needed for precision work were not always available. These constraints sometimes slowed his momentum, yet he accepted them with patient realism. Watt understood that invention unfolded not only through insight but through steady resilience, the willingness to move forward even when conditions were less than ideal. Recognizing the need for financial support, Watt sought partnerships that might help bring his engine to life on a larger scale. He approached influential individuals with calm professionalism, presenting his ideas clearly and without exaggeration. Some were intrigued by his demonstrations, noting the clear improvements in fuel efficiency, while others hesitated due to the risks involved. Watt did not rush these conversations. He allowed them to develop naturally, trusting that the right collaborator would appear when the time was right. As he waited for these opportunities to mature, Watt continued refining his designs, sketching new configurations, and analyzing the flow of steam with increasing sophistication. His workshop became a landscape of scattered diagrams, metal components, and small test rigs, each representing a step toward the engine he envisioned. Watt moved through this space with quiet purpose, adjusting valves, polishing surfaces, and recording observations with steady clarity. These gentle routines formed the rhythm of his days, grounding him even as his ideas grew more ambitious. Toward the end of this phase, Watt felt a growing sense of readiness, an awareness that his work had reached a point where further progress would require larger resources, broader support, and new collaborations. He did not feel anxious or overwhelmed. Instead, he sensed a calm transition approaching, like the natural shift from one season to the next. The engine had guided him to this point with patience, and now it was preparing to step into the next stage of development. Watt entered this next phase of his journey with a sense of gentle determination, aware that his ideas had grown too large for the small workshop where they first took shape. The model worked well enough to prove his principle, yet he felt the quiet pull toward something greater, an engine that could operate with true efficiency and rhythm. He knew the transition would not be simple, but the clarity of his vision gave him calm confidence. Watt understood that every major invention began with a moment when thought quietly demanded transformation. The support he sought soon arrived in the form of patrons who recognized the promise hidden within his early prototypes. Their interest did not come with loud enthusiasm or dramatic declarations, but with thoughtful questions and a willingness to listen. Watt appreciated this approach, for it aligned with his own temperament, measured, curious, and grounded in understanding rather than spectacle. Through these conversations, he sensed that the world was beginning to lean gently toward the possibilities he represented. Among these new connections, Watt found valuable support from Professor Joseph Black, a chemist whose calm intellect and steady encouragement helped him navigate scientific uncertainties. Black understood Watt's thoughtful nature, offering insights without pressure and reassurance without excessive praise. Their quiet discussions about heat, energy, and latent forces strengthened Watt's confidence that his engine was not only theoretically sound, but scientifically significant. This relationship created a foundation of trust that would support many of his future breakthroughs. Encouraged by Black's guidance, Watt began planning the construction of a full-scale model capable of demonstrating his separate condenser on a larger, more realistic machine. He spent long evenings sketching diagrams, analyzing measurements, and imagining how each part would cooperate within the broader mechanism. These drawings were not rushed. They flowed slowly, shaped by patient refinement and the steady rhythm of deep concentration. Watt approached design as an art form, trusting that clarity would emerge through thoughtful repetition. With growing support from the university community, Watt secured a small workspace where he could assemble the engine piece by piece. The room became a sanctuary for his evolving ideas, its walls decorated with sketches and tables, covered in tools arranged with quiet precision. Watt felt at ease in this space, knowing that every movement toward completion carried the weight of possibility. Here, he could listen to the gentle language of metal and steam, interpreting their responses like notes in a soft unfolding melody. The challenges he encountered at this scale were far greater than those he faced with miniature models. Larger cylinders demanded greater accuracy, heavier pistons required smoother balance, and the condenser needed a robust structure capable of handling large pressure fluctuations. Each obstacle appeared at first like a stone in the road, yet Watt approached them, not with frustration, but with the calm curiosity that had guided him since childhood. He saw difficulty as part of the natural dialogue between idea and reality, and as the months passed, Watt spent countless hours refining the connections between the cylinder and the condenser, ensuring that steam flowed with minimal resistance. He tested different valve designs, searching for a configuration that would allow the engine to breathe with steady rhythm. Some attempts failed quietly, others succeeded with small but meaningful results. These incremental discoveries gave him a sense of gentle progress, reminding him that invention unfolded through countless subtle adjustments rather than single dramatic moments. During quieter evenings in the workshop, Watt often paused to reflect on the nature of power itself, how heat transformed into motion, and how motion could be harnessed to lift water, drive machinery, and reshape the world. These reflections were not grand philosophical exercises, but calm observations that deepened his motivation. Watt understood that the engine he was creating had the potential to ease human labor, support industry, and bring new possibilities to everyday life. This purpose strengthened his resolve through the more difficult moments of experimentation. The support of friends became increasingly important as Watt devoted himself fully to this demanding work. Some visited the workshop with warm concern, offering conversation, tea, or quiet company, while he labored over valves and fittings. These simple interactions lifted his spirits, reminding him that invention was never an entirely solitary pursuit. Each visitor, whether scholar or craftsman, contributed a small measure of reassurance that his efforts were meaningful and appreciated. Despite these comforting moments, Watt often struggled with the physical demands of building such a large machine. His health, always delicate, sometimes faltered under the strain of long workdays and heavy materials. There were days when fatigue weighed on him like a quiet fog, forcing him to move slowly and rest often. Yet even during these difficult periods, Watt never felt discouraged. He simply resumed work with gentle persistence as soon as his strength returned. His calm resilience became one of his greatest tools. As the engine grew closer to completion, Watt began to sense the quiet thrill of progress humming beneath its metal frame. Each part he installed brought the machine one step closer to life, creating a soft anticipation that filled the workshop with subtle energy. He tightened bolts, aligned moving parts, and smoothed rough surfaces until every component responded with satisfying harmony. The machine, once scattered across tables and shelves, now stood as a nearly complete embodiment of his vision. Watt's moments of solitude during this time became especially meaningful, giving him space to process the magnitude of what he was building. He often found himself gazing at the engine in silence, feeling both humbled and grateful for the opportunity to pursue a project of such importance. The gentle stillness surrounding these moments allowed him to appreciate how far he had come since the first time he touched the broken Newcomen model years earlier. Progress, he realized, had grown from countless patient steps. Yet even as the engine neared its first true test, Watt understood that more challenges awaited. Large-scale engines introduced problems that miniature models never revealed, leaks that weakened pressure, misalignments that disrupted motion, and materials that faltered under repeated cycles of heat. Watt prepared himself for these difficulties with calm acceptance, knowing they were part of the natural life of invention. He trusted that persistent refinement would bring the machine closer to its ideal form. As the final components came together, Watt felt a quiet, steady excitement building within him. He recognized that the engine represented not only mechanical progress, but a new way of thinking about power and efficiency. Its separate condenser, once just a soft idea drifting through his thoughts, now existed in polished metal, ready to transform steam into motion with unprecedented grace. Watt approached the finished machine not as a triumph, but as a partner in discovery, a creation built through patience, curiosity, and deep respect for the subtle truths of nature. With the engine nearly ready for testing, Watt paused to reflect on the long journey that had brought him here. He remembered the quiet workshop in London, the patient lessons of his apprenticeship, the misty walks through Glasgow Green, and the countless hours spent listening to the language of steam. Each experience had shaped him gently, preparing him for this moment of transformation. Now, as the machine waited in poised silence, Watt felt a calm certainty that the next chapter of his life and the world's was about to begin. Watt began the first full-scale tests of his new engine with a quiet blend of anticipation and restraint, understanding that true progress required calm observation rather than excitement. As he prepared the furnace and examined the connecting rods, he moved with deliberate care, knowing that even a slight misalignment could disrupt the machine's delicate balance. The workshop filled with the soft scent of heated metal and coal, carrying a sense of gentle readiness. Watt felt his heartbeat slow into a steady rhythm, mirroring the composed patience the machine demanded. When the first wave of steam entered the cylinder, Watt watched closely as the piston stirred with hesitant motion, rising a few inches before settling again. The movement was small, but it revealed valuable information about the system's balance and the power of the separate condenser. Watt's face remained calm, neither disappointed nor overly encouraged. He understood that this moment represented the first breath of a new kind of engine, one that needed time to learn its rhythm. He adjusted valves with quiet precision and prepared for the next attempt. As more steam flowed into the cylinder, the piston began moving with a smoother, more predictable rhythm. Each rise and fall echoed through the workshop like a soft heartbeat, releasing small puffs of vapor into the air. Watt gently placed his hand along the side of the cylinder, feeling the subtle warmth that indicated the engine was maintaining temperature more efficiently than any Newcomen model could. These sensations confirmed the potential he had sensed years earlier, bringing a steady glow of satisfaction to his thoughts. His colleagues at the university gathered around the engine with quiet interest, watching as the machine found its balance. They spoke in soft tones, careful not to disturb Watt's concentration as he made delicate adjustments. Some were astonished by how efficiently the engine consumed steam, while others marveled at the grace with which the condenser removed heat without disturbing the cylinder. Their presence added a sense of shared discovery to the moment, reminding Watt that invention often blossomed through collective attention rather than solitary triumph. During a pause in testing, Watt reflected on how the engine's behavior mirrored the principles he had studied for years. He observed how heat moved through the metal, how pressure shifted along the cylinder, and how condensation formed in the separate chamber with impeccable timing. These observations confirmed that his design harmonized with nature rather than fighting against it. This harmony filled him with calm confidence, reinforcing his belief that inventions should reflect the natural world's quiet logic. The next series of tests involved gradually increasing the engine's workload, allowing Watt to examine how it responded to greater demands. He attached a simple weight mechanism to the piston, observing how the machine handled resistance with surprising consistency. Each smooth stroke demonstrated that the separate condenser had not only improved efficiency, but also strengthened the engine's reliability. Watt recorded these results with meticulous detail, understanding that future engineers would rely on his notes to replicate and refine the design. As the machine continued running, Watt's mind wandered gently into the future, imagining how this new engine might transform everyday life. He envisioned mines with cleaner, more efficient pumps, factories powered by rhythmic motion rather than human fatigue, and ships propelled by the quiet strength of steam. These thoughts were not grand fantasies, but calm reflections on what could be achieved through careful improvement. The engine had become a doorway into a new era, quiet, steady, and full of promise. Despite the engine's impressive early performance, Watt did not allow himself to grow complacent. He tested the condenser for leaks, checked the cylinder's temperature retention, and examined every valve for signs of wear. These inspections revealed small imperfections that needed refinement, reminding him that even the most successful designs demanded continued care. Watt welcomed these challenges, knowing that perfection was not a destination, but a horizon that moved with each new discovery. One evening, as the workshop grew quiet and shadows stretched across the floor, Watt sat beside the engine, listening to the fading warmth of its metal frame. The soft ticking of cooling parts sounded almost like a conversation, one that spoke of effort, error, and achievement. In this peaceful stillness, he realized how deeply this project had shaped him, drawing together every lesson he had learned since childhood. From polishing brass in his father's shop to repairing instruments in London, every quiet moment had prepared him for this one. As news of Watt's engine spread across Glasgow, visitors began arriving in increasing numbers to witness the machine firsthand. Some came out of curiosity, others out of skepticism, and a few out of genuine admiration for mechanical innovation. Watt greeted each person with calm politeness, explaining the principles behind the engine in clear, gentle terms. He never exaggerated its abilities, preferring to let the engine speak through its steady motion. This honesty earned him respect from people of all backgrounds. Many observers expressed astonishment at how much fuel the engine saved compared to the Newcomen model, noting that it produced similar power with far less coal. Watt felt gratified by these reactions, yet he remained focused on refining the design rather than seeking praise. He understood that admiration could be fleeting, but an efficient machine could influence generations. Each demonstration became an opportunity to observe the engine's behavior under different conditions, providing new insights for future improvements. As winter approached, Watt devoted more time to improving the condenser's insulation, knowing that cold temperatures would affect steam behavior. He experimented with new materials, comparing their ability to retain heat and prevent condensation in unintended places. These experiments revealed subtle truths about heat transfer that further deepened his understanding of thermodynamics. Watt felt grateful for the calm solitude of these winter months, recognizing how much clarity emerged when the world outside grew quiet. During this same period, he began to explore the idea of linking the engine's movement to rotary motion, a concept that could broaden its applications beyond pumping. He sketched designs featuring gears, wheels, and mechanical linkages capable of converting vertical strokes into circular motion. These sketches reflected both ambition and restraint, showing Watt's readiness to imagine new possibilities while maintaining respect for the complexity such mechanisms required. Even in his most creative moments, he remained grounded in thoughtful observation. Watt's progress attracted the attention of more influential patrons, some of whom urged him to patent his invention and secure financial backing. He considered their advice carefully, acknowledging the importance of protecting his work while also feeling hesitant about commercial pressures. Watt understood that invention often required a calm retreat from public demands, allowing ideas to mature without haste. Yet he also recognized that broader support would help bring the engine into the world, where it could make a meaningful difference. As the year drew to a close, Watt looked upon his nearly complete engine with gentle pride. It stood as a testament to the value of patience, curiosity, and quiet resilience, qualities that had guided him through every setback and success. The machine had evolved from a fragile idea into a powerful mechanism capable of reshaping entire industries. Watt sensed that this was not the end of his journey, but the beginning of a larger chapter that would soon reach far beyond Glasgow's modest workshops. And in the soft glow of winter lamplight, Watt understood that the engine's true life was just beginning. Its steady pulse, born from carefully balanced forces of heat and motion, would eventually echo across factories, mines, and cities throughout the world. This quiet realization filled him with both humility and wonder, reminding him that great transformations often begin with small, patient steps. The future was approaching gently, carried on the warm whisper of steam. Watt entered the months following the engine's first successful tests with a calm sense of transition, feeling that his work was quietly shifting from invention to purpose. The engine had proven its potential within the sheltered space of the workshop, but Watt understood that real progress required stepping into the broader world. He began to consider how the machine might be adapted for practical work, pumping mines, powering mills, or supporting industries that demanded continuous motion. These reflections unfolded slowly, carried by the same patient curiosity that had guided him from the very beginning. He spent long evenings refining the engine's proportions, adjusting the condenser's size, and analyzing the relationship between steam pressure and mechanical output. These calculations demanded precision, yet Watt approached them with his characteristic calm, trusting that clarity would emerge through steady thought. Each revision brought the design closer to the balance he envisioned, a machine capable of running smoothly, efficiently, and reliably under demanding conditions. In these quiet hours, Watt sensed the future drawing nearer, shaped by the soft glow of lamplight and the steady rhythm of careful reasoning. As his ideas matured, Watt recognized that he could not advance the engine alone. The machine's size, complexity, and commercial implications required support from someone with resources, influence, and experience in industry. This realization led him toward Matthew Boulton, a Birmingham entrepreneur known for his refinement, intelligence, and commitment to craftsmanship. Though Watt had heard of Boulton's work only through quiet conversations at the university, he felt a growing certainty that their paths were meant to intersect. The thought filled him with both anticipation and calm resolve. Before seeking this partnership, Watt continued to refine his designs with a sense of gentle urgency. He constructed small, experimental components, analyzing how each interacted with the full engine and how improvements might scale to industrial size. Some pieces exceeded his expectations, while others revealed subtle weaknesses that required further adjustment. Watt welcomed these discoveries, understanding that invention unfolded through a delicate balance of insight, patience, and perseverance. Each challenge strengthened his connection to the machine he was building. During this period, Watt also explored the financial realities he would soon face. He calculated costs, estimated coal savings, and projected the economic benefits his engine could offer. These quiet exercises grounded his expectations, reminding him that even the most transformative inventions required practical justification in the world of business. Watt felt no frustration at these constraints. Instead, he accepted them as part of the natural landscape that surrounded innovation. His calm understanding of both science and practicality set the stage for what came next. The growing recognition of his engine began attracting visitors from neighboring towns, miners, ironmasters, and craftsmen, curious about the new machine rumored to outperform the Newcomen engine. They arrived in steady trickles, sometimes alone, sometimes in small groups, and always with cautious interest. Watt greeted each visitor politely, offering clear explanations and demonstrations without embellishment. He preferred to let the engine speak for itself, its rhythmic motion conveying the promise of greater efficiency and gentler fuel consumption. Some visitors understood immediately what Watt had accomplished, recognizing how profoundly this separate condenser changed the engine's nature. Others remained skeptical, accustomed to the harsh reliability of the older engines and uncertain whether this new design could withstand industrial demands. Watt accepted both reactions with grace, knowing that acceptance would come slowly, shaped by repeated demonstration and the passage of time. He had learned long ago that true breakthroughs required patience, not only from the inventor, but from the world itself. Amid these visits, Watt found that his thoughts often drifted toward Birmingham, a place he had not yet seen, but which he imagined as a vibrant center of manufacturing and mechanization. He pictured workshops filled with skilled metalworkers, foundries alive with steady heat, and craftsmen capable of shaping iron into the precise forms his engine required. These imagined scenes gave him a sense of belonging, as though a part of his journey had been quietly waiting for him there. Watt trusted this intuition, feeling that Birmingham would provide the support his engine needed to reach its full potential. Before making any decisions, Watt sought the advice of Joseph Black, whose calm wisdom had supported him through countless stages of development. Black listened patiently as Watt described the engine's progress and the possibilities that lay ahead. He offered measured encouragement, reminding Watt that his ideas were sound and his temperament suited to the challenges of invention. This conversation strengthened Watt's resolve, giving him the confidence to pursue the next steps with clarity and balance. Watt began traveling more frequently, meeting with engineers, craftsmen, and investors who could help refine or support the engine's expansion. These journeys, though physically demanding, brought him into contact with new ideas and perspectives that shaped his understanding of the machine's future. He observed industrial sites with thoughtful attention, studying how water wheels, pumps, and mechanical systems interacted. Each visit offered a quiet lesson, revealing how the engine might integrate into the machinery of the broader world. As he traveled, Watt carried with him the same gentle sensitivity that had always shaped his approach to life. He noticed details others overlooked: the sound of water flowing through a mill race, the rhythm of workers tending machinery, the subtle sway of beams under heavy loads. These observations helped him refine his sense of mechanical harmony, guiding him toward designs that would work not just in theory, but in the unpredictable reality of factories and mines. Watt's calm awareness became one of his greatest assets. Returning to Glasgow after one such journey, Watt found himself thinking not only about the engine's mechanics, but about the emotional weight of its potential impact. He considered how its efficiency might ease the burden of miners who worked in dangerous, water-filled shafts. He imagined factories running more smoothly, allowing workers to perform their tasks in a more predictable rhythm. These reflections reinforced his belief that invention carried responsibility, a responsibility he felt deeply and modestly, without seeking recognition or praise. The engine continued to evolve during this time, as Watt refined its dimensions and experimented with materials that might improve its long-term durability. He studied the behavior of iron under heat, the wear patterns of moving joints, and the fluid dynamics of steam flowing through narrow channels. Each new insight brought the machine closer to the balanced, elegant design he envisioned. Watt found peace in this process, knowing that progress unfolded naturally through patient study and gentle persistence. Toward the end of this period, Watt sensed that the moment for partnership was approaching. His engine, though functional, required resources beyond what he could secure alone. He had brought the design as far as his own workspace allowed, and now the next chapter depended on collaboration. This realization did not bring him anxiety. Instead, it filled him with a quiet anticipation that felt almost like readiness. He trusted that the right supporter, someone who understood both the practical and philosophical sides of invention, would emerge at the appropriate time. And so, with calm determination, Watt prepared himself to step into the broader world of industry, carrying with him the knowledge, patience, and quiet brilliance that had shaped every stage of his journey. He did not seek fame or fortune, but simply the opportunity to bring his engine to life in a way that could help others. The future stretched before him like a gentle horizon, waiting to be met with steady hands and thoughtful purpose. Watt felt the soft momentum of progress guiding him forward toward Birmingham, toward partnership, and toward the next great chapter of his life. Watt entered this next phase of experimentation with a renewed sense of clarity, recognizing that the engine's future depended on building connections beyond Glasgow's familiar workshops. He knew he needed support not only from scientists and scholars, but from people who understood the practical demands of industry. This awareness pushed him gently but firmly toward broader conversations, encouraging him to share his ideas with a wider audience. Though naturally reserved, Watt understood that invention reached its full potential only when it met the world with open hands. His first series of discussions involved mine owners seeking ways to reduce fuel consumption and improve water pumping efficiency. These individuals listened carefully as Watt described the advantages of the separate condenser, intrigued by the possibility of saving resources without sacrificing power. Some tested their understanding by asking direct questions, while others pondered the implications in quiet thought. Watt responded with calm precision, offering explanations grounded in careful observation rather than technical bravado. These early conversations planted the seeds of trust. During these meetings, Watt learned how deeply coal costs affected the economics of mining. He saw that even modest improvements in fuel efficiency could make the difference between a profitable operation and a failing one. This understanding strengthened his belief in the importance of his invention, not as a scientific curiosity, but as a practical tool capable of easing burdens across entire industries. Watt felt a quiet sense of purpose taking root, knowing that the engine could offer support where it was most needed. As he continued traveling, Watt observed the harsh conditions miners faced. Dark tunnels filled with cold water, unstable shafts, and relentless physical strain. He realized that the engine's success could reduce the need for manual labor in dangerous environments, giving workers safer and more predictable conditions. This realization shaped his approach to each new demonstration, reminding him that behind every technical improvement stood real people whose lives might benefit. The engine became more than a machine. It became a quiet promise of relief. Despite growing interest, Watt faced recurring doubts from those accustomed to traditional engines. Many found it difficult to imagine a machine that operated more efficiently than the well-known Newcomen design. Watt addressed these concerns with patience, acknowledging their experiences while gently highlighting the scientific principles behind his approach. He avoided confrontation, choosing instead to let calm reasoning guide his explanations. Over time, this steady clarity helped soften even the most skeptical minds. However, as the engine's reputation spread, Watt encountered the inevitable challenges that accompany new ideas. Some individuals attempted to replicate his work without understanding its underlying principles, creating faulty machines that diminished confidence in the design. Others misinterpreted the purpose of the separate condenser, believing it to be a minor adjustment rather than the transformative breakthrough it truly represented. Watt met these misunderstandings with quiet resilience, determined to continue refining the engine until its benefits spoke unmistakably for themselves. During this period, Watt's workshop became a center of thoughtful activity, filled not with noise or chaos, but with the soft rhythm of methodical work. He constructed additional models for demonstration, each one slightly improved from the last. He also developed tools for measuring temperature changes, steam flow, and pressure levels, ensuring that every observation rested on a foundation of precision. These routines deepened his connection to the engine, reinforcing the sense that he and the machine were learning from each other through steady cooperation. One evening, while reviewing his notes by candlelight, Watt realized that the engine's next stage of development required skills beyond his own. He needed ironworkers capable of casting large components, craftsmen familiar with heavy machinery, and an industrial environment capable of sustaining complex production. This realization did not intimidate him. Instead, it felt like the natural continuation of a journey he had followed with patience since his earliest days of instrument making. He sensed that the horizon was quietly expanding. Repeated conversations with colleagues reinforced the idea that Birmingham, home to the famed Soho manufactory, held the resources necessary for the engine's next evolution. Watt learned about Matthew Boulton's reputation for precision, quality, and forward-thinking manufacturing. The thought of working in such a place stirred a sense of calm excitement, for it aligned perfectly with his desire to see the engine built with the care it deserved. He imagined workshops filled with skilled hands and minds ready to engage in shared purpose. Before making any commitments, Watt traveled to inspect local industrial sites, observing how water wheels, pumps, and mechanical systems performed under real-world demands. These visits provided invaluable insight into the environments his engine would eventually serve. He noted the limitations of existing engines, the inefficiencies of coal consumption, and the mechanical strain placed on aging infrastructure. Each observation strengthened his conviction that his invention had a place in the world beyond the university walls. Throughout these journeys, Watt's gentle temperament remained a steady anchor. He listened more than he spoke, absorbing the needs and challenges of the people he met. He took careful notes, not only about machinery, but about the rhythms of daily life that surrounded it, workers' routines, the flow of materials, and the shifting demands of growing towns. This awareness shaped his understanding of the engine's future role, reminding him that invention must adapt to the world it enters, not the other way around. As winter approached once more, Watt returned to Glasgow with clarity about his next steps. He knew he needed to strengthen his connection to the industrial world, and he understood that partnership would be essential. The thought of collaborating did not diminish his independence. Instead, it broadened his sense of possibility. Watt felt prepared to bring his invention into the hands of those who could help it grow, trusting that the patience and precision of his earlier work had laid a strong foundation. His friends at the university shared his optimism, offering thoughtful encouragement as he described the conversations he hoped to pursue. They reminded him that invention flourished where ideas met resources, and that his calm brilliance deserved a setting capable of supporting its full expression. Their support strengthened Watt's resolve, filling him with gratitude for the quiet community that had nourished his mind. He felt ready gently, steadily, genuinely, to take the next step into a larger world. As the year drew to a close, Watt prepared for the journey that would carry him toward Birmingham, toward partnership, and toward a future shaped by shared purpose. He packed his notes, sketches, and experimental records with careful hands, knowing that each page represented a step in a long and thoughtful journey. The engine was no longer just an idea or a prototype. It was a living concept, ready to be shaped by collaboration. Watt felt a deep calm settle over him as he set his intentions for the path ahead. And in this quiet moment, he understood that progress did not arrive through haste or force. It emerged through patience, curiosity, and the willingness to follow ideas wherever they led. With steady breath and thoughtful anticipation, Watt stepped into the next chapter of his life, guided by the soft rhythm of invention and the calm certainty that his engine was ready to meet the world. Watt began the slow journey toward Birmingham with a sense of quiet purpose, aware that he was stepping into a world far larger than the workshop where his engine had taken shape. The roads were long and sometimes muddy, yet each step carried him closer to the industrial heart of Britain, a place where ideas met iron, and invention found the tools needed for transformation. As he traveled, Watt allowed his mind to drift between anticipation and reflection, feeling the gentle weight of the future resting calmly on his shoulders. He sensed that this journey marked a turning point in both his life and in the life of his engine. Along the route, Watt observed the changing landscape with the same thoughtful curiosity that had shaped his scientific work. He watched rivers powering water wheels, saw small workshops hammering out tools, and noticed the rhythm of towns growing around industry. These scenes deepened his understanding of how machinery supported daily life, giving him fresh insight into the environments where his engine might one day serve. The farther he traveled, the more clearly he saw the quiet need for a machine that could provide steady power in places where nature offered little assistance. Watt often stopped to speak with craftsmen, miners, and mill workers, listening carefully as they described the challenges they faced. Many spoke of rising fuel costs, flooded shafts, and machines that broke under heavy strain. Watt absorbed these stories gently, recognizing how deeply industry relied on reliable power. These conversations strengthened his belief that his engine could ease burdens for countless people, offering a calm and dependable force in environments filled with noise and uncertainty. Watt carried these voices with him, allowing them to guide his intentions. During quiet evenings at inns along the road, Watt reviewed his notes beneath the soft glow of candlelight. He examined diagrams of pistons, valves, and condensers, searching for ways to further refine the design before presenting it to potential partners. These peaceful moments allowed his thoughts to settle into clarity, reminding him that insight emerged most easily when approached with patience. Watt felt grateful for the slow pace of travel, recognizing how each gentle pause helped prepare him for the conversations ahead. As he came closer to Birmingham, Watt's thoughts increasingly turned toward Matthew Boulton, the man whose reputation had quietly shaped this journey. Boulton was known not only for his business acumen, but for his refined taste, commitment to quality, and genuine interest in mechanical innovation. To Watt, these qualities created a sense of calm compatibility. He felt that Boulton would understand the spirit behind his work, appreciating both its scientific foundation and its quiet promise of practical help. Upon arriving in the outskirts of Birmingham, Watt found himself surrounded by an atmosphere unlike any he had experienced before. Workshops hummed with activity, foundries emitted soft glows of molten metal, and carts carried materials through narrow streets lined with industrious energy. Yet, beneath the noise, Watt sensed a kind of harmony, an organized rhythm in which each person and machine played a purposeful role. This environment felt both overwhelming and inspiring, filling him with a mixture of awe and readiness. Watt's first glimpse of the Soho manufactory came just after sunrise, when the building's broad windows caught the morning light in warm, reflective tones. The manufactory struck him not as a chaotic workshop, but as a thoughtfully designed place where art and engineering met with quiet dignity. Workers moved with practiced ease, shaping metal, assembling components, and tending to machines with disciplined care. Watt felt an immediate sense of belonging, sensing that his engine could find a home in this space of refined craftsmanship. Meeting Matthew Boulton for the first time brought Watt a surprising sense of calm. Boulton greeted him warmly, offering a welcome marked by genuine curiosity rather than formality. He listened attentively as Watt described the separate condenser, asking thoughtful questions that revealed both mechanical understanding and forward-looking ambition. Watt appreciated Boulton's grounded enthusiasm, recognizing in him a rare combination of practical insight and visionary clarity. Their conversation flowed easily, carried by mutual respect and shared fascination with machinery. As Watt explained the details of his design, Bolton's interest deepened in measured but unmistakable ways. He recognized the engineering potential of the separate condenser, as well as the broader implications for industry. Bolton understood that an efficient engine could transform factories, expand production, and reduce reliance on natural power sources. Watt felt encouraged by this recognition, sensing that his work was being met with the kind of understanding it had long needed. The foundation of partnership began settling quietly between them. Bolton invited Watt to tour the manufactory, encouraging him to observe the processes and meet the craftsmen who worked there. Watt followed with thoughtful attention, studying the methods used to cast metal, calibrate instruments, and assemble mechanical components. He felt inspired by the skill and precision surrounding him, recognizing how these capabilities could bring his engine from concept to reality. Each observation strengthened his confidence that Birmingham was the right place for the next stage of his work. During their discussions, Bolton shared his own dreams of improving factory systems and expanding the manufactory's influence across Britain. He spoke with a calm but steady passion about creating reliable machines that could support industry, ease labor, and improve living conditions for workers. Watt found himself deeply aligned with these values, for they mirrored his own belief that invention should serve humanity rather than merely impress it. Their shared purpose created a quiet but powerful foundation for collaboration. Watt spent several days at Soho, engaging in long conversations with Bolton and carefully reviewing possibilities for partnership. They discussed materials, production capacity, patent considerations, and the technical challenges that lay ahead. Watt felt grateful for Bolton's measured patience, for he never pushed decisions prematurely. Instead, he offered thoughtful guidance, helping Watt clarify what the next steps should look like. This gentle leadership eased Watt's natural caution, allowing him to move forward with greater confidence. Throughout these days, Watt remained deeply aware of the delicate balance between ambition and humility. He understood that his engine could bring significant change, yet he did not seek fame or fortune. Instead, he desired only the opportunity to build a machine that worked reliably, efficiently, and in harmony with nature's laws. Bolton seemed to understand this instinctively, respecting Watt's quiet nature and supporting him with sincerity. Their partnership began not with grand proclamations, but with mutual trust built slowly and thoughtfully. By the end of his time in Birmingham, Watt felt a quiet certainty settling in his mind. He recognized that the Soho manufactory offered not only the resources and skills necessary for his engine, but the environment in which his ideas could thrive. He sensed that this was the place where his work would transition from careful experimentation into something capable of changing the world. Watt prepared himself to return to Glasgow with a renewed sense of direction, ready to refine his work in anticipation of the partnership to come. As he departed Birmingham, Watt felt the gentle momentum of progress carrying him forward. The world seemed to expand softly around him, revealing possibilities that had remained hidden during his years of quiet labor. The road before him felt familiar yet new, a continuation of the path he had followed since childhood, shaped now by the promise of collaboration and support. With calm determination, Watt embraced this next chapter, trusting that the future awaited him with steady hands and open doors. Watt returned to Glasgow with a quiet but growing sense of direction, carrying the impressions of Birmingham with him like a calm yet steady undercurrent. The journey back felt different from the path he had taken to reach the city, no longer filled with uncertainty but marked by a gentle anticipation. He reflected on the conversations he had shared with Matthew Bolton and the atmosphere of the Soho manufactory, knowing that these experiences had quietly reshaped his understanding of what was possible. Watt sensed that his engine, once a solitary project, was now on the verge of becoming something far larger. As he settled once more into his familiar workshop, Watt began reviewing his sketches and experimental notes with renewed clarity. He saw details he had once overlooked, connections that now felt clearer, and opportunities that had previously seemed too distant to consider. Birmingham had given him a broader sense of scale, revealing how large components might be cast, how precise machining could be achieved, and how disciplined workers could bring complex designs to life. These realizations deepened his motivation, guiding each step of his continued refinement. Watt resumed his work with calm determination, adjusting valve shapes, refining piston designs, and experimenting with different condenser arrangements. His movements were steady and unhurried, reflecting the quiet confidence he had gained from meeting Bolton. At times he paused to consider how each adjustment would behave on a full-sized machine, recalling the capabilities he had witnessed at Soho. These reflections helped him align his prototype more closely with industrial reality, bringing the design into harmony with the needs of a larger world. The university community noticed a subtle change in Watt's demeanor. He carried himself with a new sense of purpose, not loud or assertive, but steady and assured. Professors who had admired his careful approach now sensed that the engine had reached a turning point, poised to step beyond academic curiosity into the heart of industry. They offered gentle support as Watt tested new ideas, discussing potential solutions with thoughtful restraint. Their encouragement reinforced his growing belief that he was moving in the right direction. During this period, letters traveled quietly between Glasgow and Birmingham, each one strengthening the delicate bridge forming between Watt and Bolton. The correspondence revealed a shared dedication to quality and a calm, forward-looking spirit. Bolton wrote with clarity and warmth, expressing genuine interest in the engine's progress and offering insight into manufacturing realities. Watt replied with detailed updates, discussing experiments, materials, and the challenges he continued to face. These exchanges deepened their mutual trust, shaping the early contours of a partnership built on respect. Yet even as progress advanced, Watt encountered difficulties that tested both his patience and his resilience. Some experimental components refused to behave as expected, revealing weaknesses in materials or in the design itself. Leaks formed in places that had seemed airtight, while certain valves responded unpredictably under repeated cycles of heat and motion. Watt approached these setbacks with calm persistence, recognizing that challenges were part of the natural progression toward refinement. Each obstacle became a quiet lesson that strengthened his engineering intuition. To ease the strain on his finances, Watt accepted small commissions repairing instruments and assisting with mathematical equipment at the university. These tasks, though modest, provided necessary income while allowing him to remain close to the intellectual environment that had nurtured his ideas. Watt balanced these responsibilities with his engine work, moving calmly between obligations without losing sight of his larger purpose. This balance allowed him to maintain momentum even when practical concerns pressed more heavily than before. One afternoon, while walking along the River Clyde, Watt found himself reflecting on how far his engine had come. The quiet movement of water mirrored the fluid grace he hoped to achieve in his machine, inspiring him to consider new ways to manage steam flow. He contemplated how the condenser might be improved to handle fluctuations in pressure and how the cylinder walls could better retain heat. These gentle reflections helped clarify his next steps, reminding him that insight often emerged during moments of stillness. Watt's confidence grew steadily as his engine neared readiness for industrial construction. He felt the quiet accumulation of years of learning, the patient skills of craftsmanship, the scientific insights gained at the university, and the practical understanding nurtured through travel. The pieces of his life had begun aligning with remarkable harmony, each experience contributing to the design now taking shape. Watt felt both humbled and strengthened by this realization, knowing that invention was rarely the work of sudden inspiration, but of sustained, thoughtful effort. During these weeks, Watt began preparing documents necessary for patent protection, understanding that securing his rights would safeguard the engine's future. The process demanded detailed explanations and careful wording, requiring Watt to articulate concepts that had previously lived only in sketches and intuitive understanding. He approached this task with characteristic patience, drawing on his scientific clarity to ensure that the heart of his invention, the separate condenser, was described with precision. Though tedious, the work reminded him of the importance of honoring his own efforts. As the paperwork progressed, Watt sensed that the moment to rejoin Birmingham was approaching. He felt a gentle pull toward the collaborative environment he had witnessed at Soho, where skilled workers and disciplined processes could bring the engine to life. The thought of returning filled him with quiet excitement, tempered by the awareness of the challenges that awaited. Watt understood that building a full-scale engine would require not only technical skill, but emotional stamina, a willingness to adapt, learn, and refine once more. Friends and colleagues in Glasgow offered their warm support as Watt prepared to travel again. They recognized the significance of the step he was taking, knowing that the success of the steam engine could bring recognition not only to Watt, but to the university and to Scotland itself. Their encouragement provided him with a sense of grounding, reminding him that the calm foundation of his early life had shaped the engineer he had become. Watt carried this sense of belonging with him, grateful for the quiet community that had nurtured his mind. As he finalized preparations, Watt reviewed his notes one last time, ensuring that every detail was ready to present in Birmingham. He gathered sketches, models, calculations, and experimental records with steady hands, packing them carefully, as though each item were a fragile piece of the story he had been building. He understood that these documents represented the bridge between concept and reality, guiding the manufactory toward the precise form the engine needed to achieve. Watt felt a gentle pride in the work he had assembled. When the day of departure arrived, Watt stepped onto the road with a calm sense of resolve, carrying not only his papers and prototypes, but the quiet momentum of years of perseverance. He felt the engine moving with him, not in physical form, but in spirit, shaping each step with a sense of purpose. The path to Birmingham stretched before him, familiar yet new, offering both challenge and opportunity. Watt breathed deeply, embracing the soft rhythm of the journey, ready to bring the engine into a world that was finally prepared to receive it. And so, with steady determination and the gentle strength of one who follows a clear and honest calling, James Watt continued onward. The road led toward partnership, toward industry, and toward a future shaped by the quiet power of steam. Each step carried him closer to a transformation he had never sought for himself, but had always pursued for the world around him. The next chapter waited patiently, ready to unfold under the calm guidance of his thoughtful mind. Watt arrived in Birmingham with a renewed sense of calm determination, recognizing that this chapter of his life required both confidence and humility. As he approached the Soho grounds, the gentle hum of industry welcomed him with a familiar steadiness, echoing the rhythm he had felt during his first visit. The buildings stood with quiet strength, their windows reflecting morning light in soft golden tones. Watt sensed that he was stepping into a place where thought and craftsmanship intertwined in purposeful harmony, creating an environment where ideas could breathe and grow. Bolton greeted him with warm sincerity, offering a welcome that eased any lingering nervousness. Their handshake carried the natural ease of two minds aligned by curiosity and shared ambition. Watt appreciated the absence of pretense, finding comfort in Bolton's balanced temperament. He knew that partnerships often strained inventors, yet here he felt none of the tension he had feared. Instead, he sensed a calm foundation forming, one strong enough to support both innovation and the long journey ahead. Their early discussions unfolded over long afternoons, with sketches, prototypes, and quiet observations scattered across a broad wooden table. Watt described the delicate coordination between cylinder, piston, and condenser, while Bolton responded with thoughtful questions grounded in practical understanding. They spoke not in rushed excitement, but in slow, deliberate cadence, allowing each idea to settle before continuing. This rhythm gave their collaboration an almost meditative quality, strengthening the trust growing between them. Bolton soon introduced Watt to the skilled craftsmen who worked at Soho, each one dedicated to perfecting the art of machining. Watt observed them with deep respect, noting the calm precision with which they measured, cast, and shaped iron. These workers approached metal with a gentleness that surprised him, treating each piece as something worthy of care rather than brute force. Watt realized that their craftsmanship formed the missing piece in his engine's evolution, offering the reliability and precision he had long envisioned. The Soho environment itself seemed to support creativity with natural ease. Trees lined the surrounding fields, offering moments of quiet reflection between bouts of work. Inside, sunlight filtered softly through tall windows, illuminating benches covered in tools arranged with careful order. Watt found himself moving through these spaces with a sense of peace, sensing how the manufactory's atmosphere aligned with his own thoughtful temperament. Here, he could think clearly, work patiently, and refine ideas without the weight of urgency. As they began planning the construction of a full-scale engine, Watt and Bolton approached each decision with steady cooperation. Bolton handled negotiations with suppliers, ensuring access to high-quality iron and materials capable of withstanding the demands of steam. Watt refined his proportions, recalculated pressures, and adjusted the condenser's dimensions to align with industrial realities. Their roles complemented each other naturally, shaped by mutual understanding and the absence of rivalry. Together they formed a partnership built on trust, logic, and calm intention. The first major challenge arose as they realized that casting a large, perfectly cylindrical cylinder required precision beyond what many foundries could deliver. Imperfections created friction, reduced efficiency, and threatened the delicate balance of the engine. Watt studied these flaws with quiet frustration, knowing that even a small distortion could disrupt the machine's grace. Bolton, seeing his concern, reassured him with steady confidence, promising to seek out the best craftsmen and techniques available. Watt felt grateful for this unwavering support, a reminder that he was no longer facing obstacles alone. During tests of the prototype components, Watt often worked late into the evening, carefully observing how steam moved through pipes, valves, and chambers. He listened to the soft hiss of pressure equalizing, noting how slight variations affected performance. His attention never drifted. He treated the machine as a living system that revealed its nature only through patient listening. These quiet nights became some of his most productive moments as breakthroughs emerged through steady reflection rather than flashes of inspiration. Bolton frequently visited Watt during these late sessions, bringing tea and offering gentle conversation. He asked thoughtful questions that helped Watt articulate his reasoning, occasionally sparking insights that guided the next round of refinements. Their discussions carried no expectation of immediate answers, allowing ideas to unfold at their natural pace. Watt admired Bolton's ability to blend practical intelligence with calm encouragement, recognizing that such support strengthened his own clarity and resilience. As the months passed, the construction of the engine began to take shape in earnest. Foundry workers delivered castings that slowly assembled into a towering structure of iron and steel, each component reflecting the careful labor of many hands. Watt supervised the assembly with meticulous care, ensuring that each joint aligned with the exact dimensions he had calculated. Watching the engine rise from scattered parts into a unified whole filled him with a deep, quiet satisfaction. It felt as though years of thought were finally finding physical form. Yet challenges continued to emerge, testing both the engine's structure and Watt's patience. Some castings arrived with microscopic flaws, requiring recasting and adjustments in timing. Certain valves struggled to maintain consistent motion, demanding new iterations of design. Watt faced these setbacks without frustration, recognizing them as natural steps in the life of any large project. His calm temperament kept the workshop grounded, fostering an atmosphere where improvement came through reflection rather than urgency. Throughout this period, Watt and Bolton worked together with a partnership that strengthened day by day. Bolton's influence within Birmingham allowed them access to skilled workers and high-quality materials, while Watt's scientific insight guided each technical refinement. They complemented each other with remarkable balance, Bolton providing structure and resources, Watt providing the quiet brilliance that shaped the engine's core. Their collaboration became an example of what could emerge when two minds met in mutual respect. The engine's assembly drew attention throughout Birmingham, attracting craftsmen, engineers, and curious onlookers who sensed the significance of the work. Visitors watched with quiet fascination as the condenser was fitted into place, observing the delicate tubing and smooth surfaces that set this machine apart from any they had seen before. Watt greeted each visitor with polite reserve, explaining the engine's principles with gentle precision. He understood that the machine's impact would be measured not in fanfare, but in the steady usefulness it offered. As completion neared, Watt found himself increasingly reflective about the journey that had brought him here. He remembered the quiet hours in Glasgow, the delicate instruments he crafted in London, and the moment of clarity beside the River Clyde when the separate condenser first entered his mind. Each memory felt like a step in a long, winding path that now converged in the heart of Birmingham's industrious world. Watt felt humbled by this realization, knowing that invention emerged not from isolated brilliance, but from a lifetime of gentle accumulation. When the final pieces were set in place, Watt stood beside the engine with a sense of calm readiness. The machine towered above him, silent, balanced, and full of potential energy, waiting to be awakened. He ran his hand along the cylinder's smooth surface, feeling the subtle warmth of iron touched by many skilled hands. For a moment he allowed himself to breathe deeply, sensing the quiet weight of the years that had led to this moment. The engine was ready, and so was he. And as the first fire was prepared beneath the boiler, Watt felt a soft steadiness settle over him. The room filled with muted anticipation, yet his mind remained calm, anchored in the patient confidence that had guided him since childhood. Whether the engine roared to life or revealed new challenges, he knew that he and Bolton would face the future together, with steady hands, thoughtful minds, and a partnership shaped by respect. The next chapter awaited gently, ready to unfold beneath the rising breath of steam. The morning of the engine's first trial began with a calm stillness, as though the manufactory itself understood the quiet significance of the moment. Workers gathered in respectful silence, their footsteps softened by anticipation rather than haste. Watt moved through the space with deliberate composure, checking each connection, sealing each joint, and ensuring that every component stood ready for the rising pressure. The gentle warmth of the boiler drifted into the air, carrying with it a sense of poised potential. Nothing felt rushed. Everything waited patiently for its awakening. As the boiler fire grew brighter, steam slowly filled the pipes, humming with a soft and steady pulse. Watt watched the pressure gauge climb with a calm concentration that steadied those around him. The condenser's surface glistened faintly, its temperature carefully balanced to accept the steam's breath. Workers exchanged quiet glances, sensing that the engine was beginning to stir, yet holding their questions behind respectful restraint. In this atmosphere of collective stillness, Watt gave a small nod, signaling the first official test To begin, when the valve opened, the piston lifted with a smooth, confident motion, rising more evenly than any previous engine Watt had built. The cylinder maintained its warmth, allowing steam to expand freely, while the condenser drew the spent vapor away with quiet efficiency. The entire mechanism moved with a kind of gentle discipline, revealing the harmony Watt had envisioned during years of careful refinement. Those present watched with growing amazement, their skepticism dissolving into quiet admiration as the engine breathed in balanced rhythm. Bolton, standing beside Watt, smiled with measured pride, recognizing the elegance of the machine's behavior. He placed a steady hand on Watt's shoulder, offering silent appreciation rather than overwhelming praise. Watt responded with a modest nod, his eyes still fixed on the engine's fluid motion. He observed every stroke with the same gentle scrutiny he had always brought to his work, noting where improvements could be made and where the design had exceeded expectations. Beneath his calm expression, a quiet triumph warmed his thoughts. As the engine continued its steady cycle, it became clear that Watt's vision had matured into a fully realized creation. The separate condenser functioned flawlessly, reducing fuel consumption and maintaining the cylinder's temperature with remarkable consistency. Workers whispered among themselves, astonished by how little coal the machine required to produce such strong and steady power. These murmurs reached Watt's ears, yet he did not dwell on them. His attention remained fixed on the engine's behavior, searching for subtle details that could guide its next refinement. After several hours of reliable operation, Watt gradually brought the engine to a rest, allowing the boiler to cool and the motion to slow naturally. The room remained silent for several moments, filled with the calm weight of what they had witnessed. Bolton eventually broke the quiet with words of thoughtful affirmation, expressing confidence that the engine would transform industry in ways few could yet imagine. Watt listened with gentle humility, knowing that the journey ahead still required patience and careful navigation. The achievement was meaningful, but it was not final. Over the days that followed, Watt and Bolton conducted additional tests to measure the engine's capacity under varying loads. They linked the piston to pumps, levers, and weight mechanisms, observing how each configuration affected performance. These tests revealed opportunities for improvement, minor misalignments, subtle temperature fluctuations, and the need for sturdier joints in certain areas. Watt welcomed these insights, viewing them not as flaws but as productive discoveries. Each adjustment brought the engine closer to the graceful balance he envisioned. The Soho craftsman worked closely with Watt to refine these components, forging new pieces with care and machining them to precise specifications. Watt admired their dedication, recognizing that their skill played a vital role in transforming theory into reliable machinery. He found himself spending long hours at their benches, studying their techniques and offering quiet suggestions when needed. These collaborations strengthened his appreciation for the craft of manufacturing, reminding him that invention thrived through shared effort rather than solitary genius. As news of the engine's success began spreading beyond Birmingham, letters arrived from mine owners, factory operators, and engineers throughout Britain. Some expressed curiosity, others enthusiasm, and a few cautious skepticism. Watt read each letter with thoughtful attention, responding calmly and clearly to every inquiry. His explanations never exaggerated the engine's capabilities. Instead, he emphasized reliability, efficiency, and the importance of careful installation. This honest approach strengthened his reputation, shaping him as both a meticulous inventor and a trustworthy partner. The growing attention increased the pressure on Watt, yet he managed the demands with a steady temperament. He spent his days balancing experimentation, correspondence, and careful documentation of each improvement. During quieter evenings, he walked through the fields surrounding Soho, allowing his mind to settle and regain clarity. These peaceful moments helped him maintain emotional balance, preventing the weight of responsibility from overwhelming his calm nature. In the soft breeze and open space, new ideas often emerged with gentle clarity. Bolton remained a constant source of support throughout this period, guiding the business aspects of the partnership with steady confidence. He managed negotiations, coordinated with suppliers, and advocated for the engine with measured enthusiasm. Watt trusted Bolton's judgment, recognizing that his partner's strengths complemented his own. Their collaboration deepened in mutual respect, forming a bond that allowed each to work from a place of comfort and authenticity. Together, they nurtured an atmosphere where innovation unfolded naturally. Watt's understanding of steam deepened further as he continued refining the engine. He studied the behavior of vapor under different temperatures, the nature of heat loss in iron, and the complex interplay between pressure and motion. Each insight revealed new opportunities to strengthen the engine's stability and efficiency. Watt recorded these findings in carefully written notes, ensuring that future builders could follow his logic with ease. His commitment to clarity reflected his belief that knowledge should remain accessible and enduring. As more engines were commissioned, the partnership expanded quietly, giving Watt additional responsibilities in overseeing construction and ensuring quality control. He approached this new chapter with gentle resolve, understanding that reliability was the key to long-term success. Watt personally inspected each cylinder, valve, and condenser, verifying that every piece matched the standards established during the first engine's creation. His dedication impressed both workers and clients, reinforcing the manufacturer's reputation for excellence. In these steady rhythms of building, refining, and guiding others, Watt found a kind of peace, an alignment between his inner temperament and the practical needs of the world. His work no longer felt like an isolated pursuit. It had become a living collaboration sustained by the trust of many hands and minds. Watt felt quietly grateful for the path that had brought him here, from the gentle curiosity of childhood to the transformative partnership that now shaped his days. The engine had grown not only in scale but in purpose. In the years following the first Soho engine trial unfolded with a sense of steady expansion, as Watt and Bolton witnessed their creation begin to echo across Britain's industrial landscape. Each new request for an engine carried with it a quiet acknowledgement that the world was slowly shifting, warmed by the gentle promise of reliable power. Watt approached this growing interest with measured calm, recognizing that each installation would require thoughtful guidance, careful construction, and a deep understanding of local needs. He felt a growing responsibility settle over him, not as a burden, but as a calling. As new engines were commissioned, Watt dedicated himself to improving the designs with quiet determination. He refined piston seals, polished cylinder interiors, and strengthened condenser joints to ensure steady efficiency under long hours of operation. These adjustments came not from dissatisfaction, but from a desire to honor the potential he saw in every moving part. Watt understood that the strength of a great machine lay in its smallest details, and he approached these refinements with the same gentle care he had once applied to mathematical instruments. The first large-scale installation outside Soho took place at a mine where water had long threatened production. Workers gathered with cautious hope as the new engine stood poised above the dark shaft, its polished components reflecting the soft morning light. When the machine began to pump water with consistent rhythm and minimal coal, the mine owners watched in quiet astonishment. Watt observed from a distance, relieved to see the engine performing with the same grace it had shown in Birmingham. Success in this harsh environment strengthened his belief in its broader potential. Encouraged by these results, Watt and Bolton continued refining their approach to manufacturing. Bolton's leadership brought order to the expanding operations, introducing new methods of organization that balanced efficiency with craftsmanship. Watt admired how naturally Bolton handled the responsibilities of business, allowing him to focus on the engine's scientific and mechanical progress. This balance created a sense of harmony between them, reinforcing the calm foundation upon which their partnership rested. Each respected the other's strengths, allowing their collaboration to deepen. During this period, Watt began receiving reports from engine operators across the country, each describing the subtle challenges and triumphs of daily use. Some engines ran perfectly from the first day, while others needed slight adjustments to reach their intended performance. Watt read each report with careful attention, addressing concerns with clarity and gentleness rather than impatience. These communications revealed not only technical issues, but also the emotional landscape of those who depended on the machines, reminding Watt of the human element behind every moving part. The success of the engines soon attracted the attention of factory owners seeking to modernize their operations. They imagined machines that could run continuously, free from the limitations of natural forces such as wind or water. Watt listened to their visions with thoughtful interest, recognizing how the engine might serve not only mines but textile mills, iron forges, and workshops of many kinds. These conversations expanded his understanding of the machine's future, revealing new horizons where steam could replace older, less reliable sources of power. As industry's demands grew clearer, Watt returned to his workshop to explore how the engine might be adapted for more complex tasks. He experimented with new methods for controlling speed, stabilizing motion, and converting the vertical stroke of the piston into continuous rotation. These challenges required both ingenuity and patience, testing his ability to translate physical principles into elegant mechanisms. Watt approached each difficulty with a calm willingness to learn, trusting that persistence would eventually guide him to solutions. His experiment soon led him to consider the governor, a device capable of maintaining steady rotational speed even under changing loads. Observing how mills needed consistent torque to drive machinery smoothly, Watt studied natural patterns of balance and control, seeking inspiration in simple mechanical toys and natural rhythms. The governor emerged gradually from these observations, shaped by gentle refinement rather than sudden insight. When he finally tested the device, Watt felt a deep, quiet satisfaction as it responded with graceful self-regulation. While these mechanical breakthroughs unfolded, Bolton expanded the company's reach with equal dedication. He traveled to factories, negotiated contracts, and presented the engine to industries that had never before considered steam power. His calm yet persuasive presence helped bridge the gap between invention and adoption, assuring clients that the engine could be trusted to support their livelihoods. Watt admired Bolton's ability to communicate complex ideas with simplicity, recognizing how crucial this skill was to their growing influence. As orders increased, the Soho manufactory transformed into a bustling yet orderly center of production. Workers forged cylinders, shaped valves, and assembled engines in a rhythm that resembled the steady motion of the machines they built. Watt moved among them with quiet gratitude, offering guidance when needed, but never disrupting the calm flow of their work. He found comfort in their discipline and dedication, knowing that every engine leaving Soho carried the combined effort of many thoughtful hands. During quieter hours, Watt often walked alone along the field surrounding the manufactory, reflecting on how steam had become a bridge between nature and human aspiration. He marveled at how the invisible power of heated water, once a simple curiosity, now drove machinery capable of reshaping entire industries. These reflections deepened his appreciation for the subtle elegance of natural laws, reminding him that invention succeeded when aligned with the quiet principles already present in the world. Watt felt humbled by these realizations, sensing that his work touched mysteries far larger than himself. The engine's growing reputation brought opportunities, but also obstacles. Some competitors attempted to imitate the design without fully understanding its principles, producing inferior machines that caused confusion and occasional distrust. Watt responded to these challenges with measured calm, relying on clarity and evidence rather than anger or accusation. He knew that authenticity would eventually distinguish his engines from flawed imitations, and he trusted that careful communication would guide clients toward the truth. This approach preserved both his dignity and his commitment to honesty. As demand expanded, Watt recognized the need for improved manufacturing techniques to maintain consistency across all engines. He collaborated closely with metalworkers to develop methods for achieving smoother surfaces and more accurate dimensions in cast iron. These advancements allowed large cylinders to be built with greater reliability, supporting the efficiency of the entire system. Watt felt quietly proud of these improvements, viewing them as essential steps in the evolution of industrial craftsmanship. Each refinement brought the engine closer to the ideal he envisioned. In the midst of this growing momentum, Watt paused often to reflect on how different his life had become. The quiet apprentice from Greenock had transformed into a figure whose ideas resonated across Britain's industrial heartlands. Yet, despite this change, Watt felt anchored by the same gentle curiosity that had guided him since childhood. He remained focused not on fame or recognition, but on the quiet pursuit of improvement, always searching for the next refinement that would bring the engine closer to graceful perfection. And so, as the decade unfolded, the engine that once existed only in sketches and quiet experiments began reshaping landscapes, industries, and the daily rhythm of countless workers. Watt sensed that he stood at the threshold of something far larger than machinery, a quiet transformation that would touch every corner of the modernizing world. The gentle pulse of steam, once confined to a small Glasgow workshop, now echoed across factories, mines, and towns, marking the beginning of a new era shaped by steady, reliable power. The expansion of the steam engine into new industries brought Watt into conversations he had never anticipated, each shaped by the quiet urgency of a world beginning to modernize. Factory owners described machinery that strained under irregular power, while mill operators spoke of seasons when water flow slowed to a crawl. Watt listened to these accounts with patient attention, recognizing the patterns that emerged from each story. He understood that the engine's real power lay not just in its mechanics, but in its ability to bring stability to places ruled by unpredictability. As the first factory engines began operating, workers noticed how the rhythmic motion provided a steady flow of energy unmatched by natural sources. Textile machinery ran smoothly, unhindered by the interruptions that once limited production. This consistency created a more predictable environment, allowing workers to perform their tasks with a calm they had not experienced before. Watt felt humbled by these reports, grateful that his invention could ease the burden of labor without demanding recognition in return. Despite these successes, new challenges emerged as the engine adapted to environments beyond mining. Factories generated heat that affected steam behavior, while long working hours required innovations in durability and maintenance. Watt approached these issues with quiet persistence, traveling to sites when necessary and offering thoughtful guidance to engineers struggling with unfamiliar machinery. He understood that each challenge carried the potential for improvement, and he welcomed the opportunity to refine the engine based on real-world needs. One of the most significant developments came when Watt realized the importance of regulating power in rotational applications. Without control, machinery risked damage from sudden surges or drops in speed. Watt revisited his earlier work on governors, refining the mechanism with calm precision until it responded seamlessly to shifting loads. The improved governor became one of the engine's most elegant components, offering graceful stability regardless of the tasks it powered. Watt took quiet pride in its balance, sensing that its subtle intelligence reflected nature's own pursuit of equilibrium. As the engine's reputation grew, inquiries arrived from far beyond Britain's borders. Merchants, engineers, and noblemen from Europe wrote to Soho requesting information about the new machine that promised to reshape industry. Watt responded with careful explanations and gentle disclaimers, mindful of the responsibilities accompanying such widespread interest. He understood that the engine must be built with exceptional precision to uphold its promise, and he feared that poorly constructed copies would undermine its potential. His cautious approach reflected his commitment to integrity rather than ambition. Bolton recognized the global potential more readily, envisioning a future where steam engines would drive economies across continents. His enthusiasm balanced Watt's caution, allowing the partnership to move forward with both vision and discipline. Together, they developed a methodical approach to production, ensuring that every engine leaving Soho met strict standards of reliability. Watt admired Bolton's ability to navigate the world of commerce without compromising the manufacturer's values, appreciating how their strengths complemented each other. Back at Soho, the growing demand prompted the expansion of workshops and the hiring of additional craftsmen. The once modest manufactory evolved into a coordinated network of skilled workers, each contributing to the machines that shaped Britain's industrial future. Watt moved through these workshops with quiet gratitude, acknowledging the dedication that turned his ideas into durable machines. He understood that invention depended on community, and he valued the shared sense of purpose that filled the manufactory with steady momentum. During the busiest seasons, Watt sometimes felt the emotional weight of responsibility settling heavily on him. The constant flow of letters, the demands of supervision, and the need for continual refinement tested his resilience. Yet he found balance in the partnership he shared with Bolton, whose calm assurance helped lighten the burden. Watt also relied on moments of solitude, retreating into the quiet spaces of Soho where the soft ticking of tools and machinery offered comfort. These peaceful interludes restored his clarity, allowing him to continue his work without losing his inner calm. The world beyond the manufactory began changing in ways that mirrored the engine's growth. Towns expanded around factories, new roads connected distant industrial centers, and the rhythm of daily life gradually shifted toward mechanical regularity. Watt observed these changes with a mixture of wonder and contemplation, recognizing both the extraordinary possibilities and the challenges that industrialization introduced. He believed deeply in the engine's ability to improve lives, yet he remained mindful of the need for thoughtful integration into the fabric of society. As steam power spread, Watt's understanding of the engine's influence deepened. He realized that it was no longer just a machine, but a force that intertwined with economics, labor, and urban development. The responsibility of such transformation weighed gently but firmly on his mind, guiding him toward decisions rooted in careful foresight. Watt approached each improvement with a sense of stewardship, knowing that the engine's evolution must align with human needs as well as mechanical potential. The partnership between Watt and Bolton strengthened through each new challenge and success. Their collaboration had grown into a dynamic equilibrium where trust replaced tension and shared purpose replaced ego. Watt valued the harmony of their working relationship, sensing that this balance allowed both of them to thrive. Together, they fostered an environment where invention could unfold at its natural pace, steady, thoughtful, and grounded in respect for the craft. As the decade progressed, the engine took on forms Watt could not have imagined during his earliest experiments. It powered mills with gentle consistency, drove hammers in ironworks with rhythmic force, and filled cities with the quiet hum of mechanical motion. Watt watched these developments with profound gratitude, recognizing that the engine had become something far larger than himself. It was now a living part of the world, adopted, adapted, and expanded through the hands of countless people. In the soft light of evening, Watt sometimes stood at the edge of the manufactory grounds, listening to the distant echo of engines running across Birmingham. Their steady rhythm reminded him of his own journey, one shaped by patience, curiosity, and the quiet willingness to learn from every setback. He understood that the engine's success was not the result of sudden brilliance, but the gentle unfolding of insight over many years. This awareness filled him with a peaceful humility that grounded his growing recognition. Through these reflections, Watt sensed that the steam engine had become a symbol of possibility, a gentle force quietly reshaping the world's relationship with work, time, and power. It offered not just efficiency, but stability, not just innovation, but reliability. And in this transformation, Watt saw the essence of his life's work, proof that calm, thoughtful persistence could create change capable of touching generations. The future felt expansive yet reassuring, marked by the steady pulse of engines carrying human effort into a new era. The spread of Watt's engine across Britain unfolded with a quiet steadiness, touching towns and industries that had long struggled under the limitations of traditional power. Each new installation created gentle ripples of transformation, offering factories a consistent rhythm that water and wind could never guarantee. Watt observed this momentum with thoughtful awareness, recognizing how each engine's reliable pulse gradually reshaped daily life. He understood that the machine was no longer simply a tool. It had become an integral companion to the growing industrial world. As more engines entered service, Watt began hearing stories of mines where flooding had once halted work for months at a time. Now pumps driven by his improved design kept shafts clear with calm, uninterrupted force, allowing miners to focus on tasks that once felt unreachable. These reports carried the tone of quiet relief rather than celebration, reflecting the practical kindness the engine offered. Watt felt humbled, knowing that his invention supported entire communities whose lives depended on steady, predictable power. Factories soon began shifting their schedules to align with the engine's consistent output, discovering new rhythms of production that extended beyond daylight hours. Workers noted the subtle difference in pace, a steadiness that created a more reliable environment where machines no longer stalled from weakened currents or unpredictable winds. Watt found comfort in these accounts, sensing how his work gently eased the strain of labor in ways that aligned with his belief in thoughtful improvement. The changes unfolded gradually as though industry itself were learning how to breathe more freely. The engine's expansion also introduced Watt to new friendships with engineers, builders, and mechanics across Britain. Many traveled to Soho seeking his guidance, eager to understand the correct methods of installation and maintenance. Watt welcomed these visitors with measured patience, offering clear explanations and encouraging them to observe the engine's behavior with attentive calm. He valued their curiosity, recognizing that each person carried the potential to shape the machine's future with their own steady hands. During this period, Watt traveled frequently to oversee installations, moving from mining towns to factory districts with quiet purpose. He observed how each region approached power differently, some driven by caution, others by bold ambition. These journeys deepened his appreciation for the diversity of industrial life, reminding him that the engine's role varied depending on the needs of each community. Watt approached these differences with respect, adjusting his guidance to ensure the engine served people with the same gentle reliability everywhere it was placed. One of the most memorable installations took place at a textile mill, perched beside a narrow river, whose flow weakened during dry seasons. The owners watched anxiously as the engine was assembled, hoping it would replace the unreliable water wheel that had long restricted their production. When the machine finally powered the looms with smooth, balanced energy, the mill workers stood in quiet amazement, listening to the steady motion that no longer depended on weather or daylight. Watt witnessed their reaction with deep gratitude, sensing that the engine had given them more than power, it had given them certainty. As the engine found new homes, Watt continued refining the design with the same gentle patience he had carried since his earliest experiments. He analyzed how long-term operation revealed patterns of wear, learning which materials endured best under repeated cycles of heat and motion. These observations guided him towards subtle improvements, ranging from stronger bearings to more carefully balanced rods. Watt did not view these adjustments as corrections, but as natural steps in the ongoing conversation between invention and experience. The spread of steam brought subtle cultural shifts as well, reshaping how people understood time and labor. Communities once guided by the pace of seasons now experienced a new kind of regularity, steady, mechanical, and dependable. Watt observed this change with thoughtful curiosity, recognizing that the engine was influencing rhythms not only of industry, but of daily life. Though he never sought to reshape society, he understood that his work carried consequences far beyond its original intention. Demand for engines soon surpassed Watt's ability to oversee every installation personally, prompting him to train teams of mechanics and engineers. He taught them not through strict instruction, but through calm explanation, encouraging them to observe the engine's behavior with attentive sensitivity. Watt believed that understanding emerged through seeing, feeling, and listening to the machine's rhythm. His gentle approach fostered a culture of thoughtful maintenance that supported the engine's reliability across countless sites. Despite the growing scale of operations, Watt remained grounded in the quiet philosophy that guided his early work. He believed that invention must remain responsive to human needs, evolving in ways that respected both nature and labor. This mindset shaped his decisions as he considered new applications of steam power, ensuring that each step forward aligned with the principles of clarity, efficiency, and balance. Watt's calm consistency became a source of reassurance for those around him, grounding the rapid expansion of steam in thoughtful leadership. As factories adopted the engine more widely, the need for standardized components became increasingly clear. Watt and Bolton responded by formalizing systems of measurement and quality control within the manufactory, ensuring that every engine shared the same precision and dependability. This structure transformed Soho into a model of organized production, admired for its calm efficiency and careful attention to detail. Watt felt quietly proud of this evolution, knowing that consistency was essential to the engine's long-term success. The engine's influence also began reaching the imagination of thinkers, economists, and philosophers who saw in steam a symbol of human ingenuity. They wrote essays and treatises describing how power could reshape economies and expand the boundaries of possibility. Watt read these reflections with modest curiosity, aware that the machine's true value lay not in lofty speculation, but in the steady, practical help it provided each day. He remained focused on the calm work of refinement, trusting that time would reveal the engine's full meaning. As Watt traveled from one installation to another, he often found comfort in the quiet moments between bustling towns. He walked along riverbanks, observed the turning of distant water wheels, and reflected on how nature's rhythms shaped human endeavor. These peaceful interludes helped him maintain emotional balance amid the growing demands of his work. He felt grateful for the gentle landscapes that reminded him of his early years in Scotland, grounding his thoughts in simplicity, even as steam reshaped the world around him. The chapter of expansion felt both continuous and gentle to Watt, as though the engine's influence were spreading not through chaos or disruption, but through steady, thoughtful adoption. Factories adapted, mills modernized, and mines deepened their operations, all supported by the quiet strength of steam. Watt sensed that he was witnessing the unfolding of a transformation that would extend far beyond his lifetime, yet he remained anchored in the present, dedicated to each engine's careful performance. His calm approach allowed the future to build itself with steady grace, and as he looked toward the horizon, where the soft smoke of distant factories mingled with the setting sun, Watt understood that the engine had become a companion to progress. Its gentle pulse echoed the quiet persistence that had guided him since boyhood, shaping both the world and his own life with the same steady rhythm. The next phase awaited him patiently, ready to unfold with the calm inevitability of a new era taking form. The expansion of Watt's engine soon reached regions that had long been considered too remote or challenging for industrial growth. Hillside villages, once dependent on small streams for power, now welcomed the steady presence of steam with quiet gratitude. These communities adapted slowly and thoughtfully, learning how to integrate the engine into their existing rhythms without disrupting the gentle pace of rural life. Watt observed these developments with soft admiration, sensing how steam power could support progress without overwhelming tradition. As engines became more common, skilled operators emerged who developed a deep intuitive understanding of their behavior. They listened to the shifts in steam pressure, felt the subtle vibrations in the frame, and recognized early signs of wear long before problems appeared. Watt valued these individuals immensely, seeing them as guardians of the engine's reliability. Their calm attentiveness allowed the machines to run smoothly, ensuring that each installation fulfilled its purpose with quiet dignity and minimal interruption. Over time, the engine's presence brought new opportunities to many towns, encouraging small workshops to expand and craftsmen to pursue more ambitious work. Blacksmiths, millers, and carpenters found that the steady power allowed them to take on tasks that once required exhausting physical labor. These shifts did not unfold through sudden upheaval, but through a gradual easing of everyday burdens. Watt felt grateful, knowing that his invention supported honest work in a way that strengthened communities rather than replacing them. Despite the positive momentum, Watt encountered resistance from individuals who feared that steam power would disrupt established livelihoods. Some worried that factories would outpace traditional methods, while others feared that reliance on machinery might erode human skill. Watt approached these concerns with sincerity, acknowledging the complexity of the changes steam introduced. He emphasized that the engine's purpose was not to overshadow workers, but to enhance their capabilities, allowing them to focus on tasks that required judgment, creativity, and care. As he navigated these conversations, Watt realized that steam power represented far more than a mechanical breakthrough. It symbolized a shift in how people understood their relationship with work. The steady rhythm of engines encouraged a new awareness of productivity, time, and efficiency. Watt reflected on these changes with gentle contemplation, wondering how future generations would interpret this moment in history. Though he had never sought to redefine society, he sensed that steam would shape the world in ways both subtle and profound. During this transformative period, Watt continued receiving letters from operators describing their experiences with the engine in daily use. Some wrote of running pumps through harsh winters, grateful for the quiet endurance of steam when other power sources failed. Others shared observations of how the engine behaved during long shifts or under unexpected strain. Watt read each letter with calm appreciation, recognizing the importance of these real-world insights. They helped him refine the design with steady improvements grounded in genuine need. The spirit of collaboration extended beyond Britain as engineers from Europe sought permission to visit Soho and learn from Watt's principles. Bolton welcomed these visitors with graceful hospitality, ensuring that knowledge was shared responsibly and respectfully. Watt approached these interactions with quiet humility, offering clear explanations and encouraging gentle experimentation. He valued the global curiosity surrounding steam, feeling honored that his ideas resonated with thoughtful minds across borders. These exchanges strengthened the international spirit of innovation. As more mills and factories adopted the engine, Watt noticed subtle improvements in working conditions. Machines that once required uneven bursts of human effort now ran with smooth consistency, reducing strain on workers and lowering the risk of accidents. This shift unfolded slowly, carried by the natural balance of mechanical rhythm. Watt felt encouraged by these reports, sensing that steam had the potential to support safer, more humane labor practices. He believed deeply in the importance of aligning progress with well-being. The engine's influence also reached educational institutions, where students gathered to study the principles of motion, pressure, and thermal energy. Watt felt a quiet sense of fulfillment, knowing that young minds were learning from the discoveries he had once pursued in solitude. He saw in these students the same gentle curiosity that had guided his earliest explorations, and he hoped that they would approach science with patience, humility, and respect for nature's laws. Their interest reminded him that knowledge was a shared inheritance rather than a personal achievement. As the years progressed, Watt began to see patterns in the types of improvements the engine required. He recognized that efficiency depended on smoother cylinder surfaces, more precise valve timing, and better insulation to retain heat. These insights led him to develop a new set of manufacturing standards that further increased performance. Watt introduced these refinements with calm intention, ensuring that each change enhanced the machine without compromising its elegant simplicity. His steady pursuit of improvement helped sustain the engine's reputation across Britain. Communities that once resisted steam gradually embraced its reliability, integrating it into their daily routines with thoughtful acceptance. Mills that had clung to traditional water wheels now acknowledged the benefits of consistent power, especially during long droughts. Workers adapted to the gentle rhythm of steam-driven machinery, finding comfort in its predictable motion. Watt felt a quiet sense of relief at this shift, reassured that the engine had earned its place through usefulness rather than force. The evolution unfolded naturally, guided by practicality and patience. In many towns, the first sight of a rising chimney stack became a symbol of growth rather than intrusion. Families viewed these structures as markers of opportunity, quiet signals that work would remain steady, that factories would stay open, and that the town's livelihood was secure. Watt knew that such responses reflected the deeper meaning of his invention. The engine had become more than a mechanical system. It had become a quiet promise of stability in a world undergoing rapid change. Reflection became a constant companion as Watt watched the engine spread across the country. He recalled the early days in Glasgow, when the condenser existed only in sketches and quiet dreams. Now the machine powered mines, mills, workshops, and entire communities with steady reliability. Watt recognized the extraordinary nature of this transformation, yet he felt no desire to celebrate it loudly. Instead, he carried a gentle gratitude, knowing that the engine's success was the result of many hands, minds, and years of patient effort. By the time the decade drew to a close, the steam engine had woven itself into the fabric of British life. It moved water, powered looms, and drove machinery with unwavering rhythm, becoming a quiet partner in the nation's growth. Watt observed this integration with calm appreciation, understanding that the machine had fulfilled its purpose with both strength and subtlety. The next stage of its evolution awaited, ready to expand its reach even further as new applications emerged across the changing world. And through all of this, Watt remained guided by the same gentle principles that had shaped him since childhood: curiosity, patience, and a deep respect for the harmony between nature and invention. The future continued unfolding with quiet inevitability, welcoming him into its next chapter with the same steady rhythm that echoed through every engine bearing his name. As steam power settled into the fabric of British industry, Watt observed a quiet maturity taking shape around his invention, as though the machine itself were growing into its role with steady confidence. Factories that had once relied on fragile systems now trusted the engine's reliability, building entire schedules around its rhythmic motion. Watt saw this transition unfold, not through dramatic change, but through gentle adjustments that gradually improved the balance of work and time. The nation seemed to breathe with a new consistency, carried by the subtle pulse of steam. Engine houses became familiar landmarks across towns, rising beside mills, mines, and workshops with a calm, utilitarian grace. Their tall chimneys lifted soft ribbons of smoke into the sky, marking the steady work happening quietly within. Watt often visited these sites, listening to operators describe the engine's daily rhythm and the challenges they faced as machinery grew more complex. These conversations gave him insight into how the engine lived in the hands of ordinary workers, adapting naturally to their routines and expectations. The growing familiarity with steam power encouraged factories to experiment with new layouts, seeking smoother production flows supported by consistent mechanical force. Watt observed how mill owners rearranged equipment, aligning machines to create harmony between motion and labor. This subtle reorganization revealed an emerging philosophy of efficiency that resonated with Watt's own belief in thoughtful design. He felt encouraged knowing that industry was embracing not only his engine, but the principles of balance and clarity that shaped it. As steam became a trusted companion to daily work, communities began adjusting their expectations of labor. Workers adapted to the predictable rhythm of machines that ran with even, measured strokes rather than the sporadic flow of water or wind. This steadiness allowed them to refine their craft, gaining confidence in the tasks they performed alongside the engine's gentle presence. Watt found these reports reassuring, sensing that the engine was not overwhelming human effort, but supporting it with quiet dignity. With this growing stability, Watt focused on refining the engine's internal harmony, seeking ways to reduce friction and improve heat retention. He revisited earlier designs with calm scrutiny, identifying small changes that could enhance performance without disrupting established systems. These efforts reflected his belief that improvement was a continuous journey, a gentle, evolving process, rather than a single moment of discovery. Watt approached each refinement with the same quiet curiosity that had guided him since his earliest experiments. During this period, Bolton noticed how naturally Watt's improvements integrated into the manufactory's output, strengthening the engines without complicating their construction. He admired Watt's ability to bring clarity to complex challenges, turning subtle problems into elegant solutions. Their partnership deepened with each shared success, marked by thoughtful discussions held in the quiet corners of Soho. Watt valued these moments, recognizing how essential Bolton's balanced leadership had become to the engine's expanding role in Britain. As installations increased, so did the need for trained mechanics who understood the engine's personality, the soft variations in sound, the gentle shifts in motion, and the way steam behaved under changing conditions. Watt approached their training with patience, encouraging them to observe before acting, to listen before adjusting. He believed that the engine responded best to those who treated it with respect and attentiveness. This philosophy shaped a new generation of operators who approached steam not as a force to be controlled, but as a companion to be understood. Travel remained a constant part of Watt's life as he visited factories and engine houses across the country. He moved with steady purpose, observing how each region blended steam power with its own unique character. In mining communities, engines provided essential strength deep below the Earth's surface. In textile towns, they offered the gentle continuity needed for intricate weaving, Watt appreciated these differences, recognizing how the engine served not just industry, but the diverse landscape of human needs. Despite the growing scale of operations, Watt maintained the reflective habits that grounded him through years of experimentation. In the evenings, he often walked alone along quiet country roads, listening to the distant hum of engines echoing through the hills. These solitary moments reminded him of the natural rhythms that had always inspired his work: the flow of water, the movement of air, the quiet persistence of heat. This harmony between nature and invention shaped his understanding of steam as a bridge rather than a disruption. The spread of steam power also encouraged towns to invest in better roads, canals, and infrastructure to support the growing industrial web. Watt watched these developments unfold gradually, recognizing how deeply the engine affected not just factories, but entire communities. He saw how improved transportation allowed goods to move more smoothly, connecting regions that had once felt isolated. Watt felt humbled knowing that his invention contributed to a broader transformation rooted in cooperation and shared opportunity. Throughout these years, Watt continued updating his notes with observations gathered from engine operators. He documented their experiences with careful detail, analyzing patterns that revealed new opportunities for refinement. Some insights led to improved lubrication methods, while others inspired adjustments to valve timing or pressure regulation. Watt understood that these incremental improvements, though quiet and often unnoticed, were essential to sustaining the engine's reputation for reliability. Factories soon began designing buildings around the engine, recognizing that steam provided the freedom to place machinery wherever it was most efficient. Watt observed this shift with gentle amazement, realizing that the engine had changed not only how machines worked, but how spaces were shaped. No longer bound to rivers or hillsides, industry could grow with greater flexibility, responding to the needs of communities rather than the demands of geography. This subtle transformation felt both practical and profound. As the decade progressed, Watt found himself reflecting more often on the early days of his work: the small workshop, the careful sketches, the late nights spent observing candlelit experiments. He compared those quiet beginnings with the widespread adoption now unfolding across Britain, sensing the continuity that ran through both moments. Though the world had grown louder with machinery, Watt remained anchored in the same calm pursuit of understanding that had guided him since youth. These reflections deepened his appreciation for the partnership he shared with Bolton, whose steady encouragement had helped transform the engine from concept to reality. Together, they had nurtured a vision that took root in countless towns, shaping the daily rhythm of work and life. Watt felt grateful for this companionship, recognizing that the engine's success rested on the harmony between invention and leadership. And as Watt prepared for the next stage of his work, he sensed that the story of steam was still unfolding, not through radical shifts, but through gentle, continuous refinement. The engine had matured, yet its future held room for growth, adaptation, and new forms of usefulness. Watt embraced this unfolding journey with quiet confidence, guided by the same patient curiosity that had always shaped his path. As steam power settled deeper into the fabric of British life, Watt began noticing how naturally people adapted to the machine's steady rhythm. Factory bells rang in harmony with engine strokes, and workers timed their tasks around the calm consistency of rotating shafts and pumps. This quiet synchronization created a sense of stability that felt new to communities, long shaped by unpredictable natural forces. Watt observed this evolution with thoughtful satisfaction, sensing that the engine had become an unspoken partner in the gentle structure of daily labor. Engine houses soon became gathering places for workers who sought reliable employment, their tall chimneys rising like steady landmarks that promised continuity. Families moved closer to factories powered by steam, drawn by the assurance that these new workplaces would function even in seasons of drought or frost. Watt understood the importance of this consistency, recognizing that the engine offered not only mechanical strength but emotional reassurance. Its gentle reliability allowed people to plan their lives with greater confidence, weaving steam subtly into the fabric of community. Watt found himself reflecting often on the growing interdependence between engine and worker, noting how each supported the other with quiet mutual respect. The engine provided steady power, and the operators maintained its balance through attentive care. This harmony reinforced Watt's belief that invention should support humanity rather than overshadow it. He felt grateful that the engine was fulfilling this role with calm integrity, embodying the thoughtful purpose that had guided its creation. As the number of installations grew, Watt refined the training programs at Soho to ensure that every operator understood the engine's subtleties. He encouraged them to observe the machine's tone, vibration, and temperature, teaching them to anticipate changes long before problems emerged. These lessons transformed the work of operating steam machinery into a skilled craft, valued for its blend of intuition and discipline. Watt admired the seriousness with which workers approached their responsibilities, recognizing how their quiet devotion supported the engine's reputation for reliability. The rise of new engine houses required architectural adjustments that reflected both function and calm practicality. Builders learned to design structures that allowed for heat expansion, smooth airflow, and safe containment of steam pressure. Watt offered gentle guidance on these matters, helping architects create spaces that respected the engine's needs while remaining accessible for maintenance. This collaboration brought together trades that had rarely intersected before, fostering a cooperative spirit rooted in shared purpose. As industry expanded, the demand for consistent power encouraged factory owners to reconsider how they arranged their equipment. Machines were positioned to optimize the distribution of force from the engine's rotating shaft, creating workflows that minimized unnecessary effort. Watt observed these developments with quiet appreciation, noting how thoughtfully designed spaces contributed to safer, smoother operations. These shifts reflected not only mechanical progress, but a deeper understanding of how humans and machines could coexist in gentle equilibrium. During this period, Watt spent considerable time analyzing the behavior of engines under long-term use, studying the patterns that emerged after thousands of hours of operation. He identified subtle forms of wear that had gone unnoticed in earlier years, leading him to refine materials, lubrication methods, and heat management. These incremental improvements strengthened the engine's durability, ensuring that it remained reliable even under continuous strain. Watt approached these refinements with the same calm curiosity that had guided every stage of the invention's evolution. As steam power became more widespread, stories emerged of towns that had been revitalized by the gentle strength of the engine. Mills that had once closed during seasons of low water now operated year-round, providing steady income for families who depended on regular work. These changes unfolded not through dramatic upheaval, but through steady, consistent progress that stabilized local economies. Watt found comfort in these accounts, knowing that the engine contributed to a sense of security that extended beyond machinery. Despite the engine's success, Watt remained mindful of the responsibility that came with widespread adoption. He knew that any failure, whether due to misuse or flawed construction, could ripple through communities that relied on these machines for their livelihood. This awareness deepened his commitment to thorough testing and thoughtful refinement, ensuring that every engine leaving Soho embodied the highest standards of reliability. Watt treated this responsibility not as a burden, but as a natural extension of his purpose as an inventor. The growing importance of steam power attracted the attention of scholars and thinkers who sought to understand the broader implications of this new era. Philosophers wrote about the changing relationship between humans and machines, while economists debated how steam would influence labor, commerce, and society. Watt read these discussions with quiet curiosity, appreciating the thoughtful perspectives even when they drifted into abstraction. For him, the engine remained rooted in the practical goal of easing human effort and enabling steady progress. As the manufactory expanded, Watt began delegating more responsibilities to trusted engineers who had grown alongside the engine's evolution. These individuals had learned from him directly, absorbing his calm approach and commitment to detail. Watt took comfort in their competence, knowing that they could oversee installations and maintenance with the same gentle diligence he valued. This allowed him to return to deeper forms of research, exploring new ways to refine the engine's balance and efficiency. Watt's reflections during this period often returned to his early years in Scotland, recalling the quiet curiosity that shaped his fascination with nature and mechanics. He remembered the soft sounds of tools in his father's workshop, the steady rhythm of waves along the shoreline, and the calm patience that guided his first experiments. These memories reminded him that the engine's evolution was not merely technical, but deeply human, grounded in a lifelong journey of observation, reflection, and gentle persistence. Yet, even as he looked back, Watt also sensed the soft unfolding of the future. The engine had grown from a simple idea into a force that shaped landscapes, livelihoods, and the gentle rhythm of daily work. It stood not as a monument to invention, but as a living companion to industry, quiet, dependable, and endlessly adaptable. Watt recognized that its story was still being written not by him alone, but by every operator, craftsman, and community that welcomed its steady presence. He approached this understanding with humility, acknowledging that the engine's impact extended far beyond his original intentions. It brought comfort where uncertainty once ruled, offering a gentle consistency that allowed entire regions to flourish. Watt felt grateful that something born from quiet thought and patient labor had grown into a gift shared across the nation. This realization filled him with peaceful satisfaction, grounding him in the knowledge that the work he had pursued with calm dedication had found its rightful place in the world. And as he prepared for the next chapter, Watt felt the soft weight of continued purpose resting gently on his shoulders. The engine had matured, yet its potential remained boundless, waiting to unfold in ways both familiar and new. With the same calm curiosity that had guided him through every previous step, he welcomed the path ahead, ready to explore, refine, and support the world shaped by the steady pulse of steam. As steam power became a familiar companion across Britain, Watt noticed that its presence began shaping not only industry, but the atmosphere of towns themselves. Streets grew more organized, workshops expanded with quiet confidence, and the steady hum of rotating shafts became a soundtrack woven into daily life. People adjusted their routines around the engine's reliable rhythm, trusting that its calm strength would not falter regardless of weather or season. Watt watched this evolution unfold with thoughtful wonder, recognizing how gently steam had settled into the identity of the nation. The engine houses, once sparse and experimental, now stood as enduring fixtures in communities large and small. Their brick walls, tall chimneys, and slow-rising steam became symbols of steady progress rather than disruption. Children grew up hearing the soft pulse of machinery echo across fields, finding comfort in its predictability. Watt felt humbled by how naturally the engine had integrated into the landscape, becoming something familiar rather than imposing. Its presence felt less like a revolution and more like a quiet partnership between invention and daily life. Factories that once struggled through long winters now operated with a confidence grounded in the engine's unwavering performance. Workers who had grown accustomed to unpredictable power sources found relief in the calm continuity of steam-driven motion. They developed deeper trust in their routines, knowing that the machines would not suddenly stop or weaken. Watt observed this shift with a gentle sense of accomplishment, recognizing that stability, more than raw power, was the engine's greatest gift to the people it served. As the engine continued spreading, new networks of trade developed in response to increased production and improved consistency. Goods moved from town to town with greater reliability, supplying materials to regions that had previously struggled with shortages. This quiet strengthening of commerce allowed small workshops to flourish and large factories to operate efficiently. Watt took comfort in these developments, seeing how the engine supported not only industry, but the broader web of relationships that sustained communities. In many towns, the introduction of steam prompted improvements to public infrastructure, encouraging the construction of more durable roads, bridges, and storage facilities. Local leaders recognized that a stable industrial base offered long-term benefits, inspiring them to invest in projects once considered too ambitious. Watt admired these practical decisions, understanding that steam had become the foundation of a growing sense of optimism. The gentle progress unfolding across Britain reflected a collective belief that steady work could build a brighter future. Throughout this time, Watt maintained correspondence with factory owners, operators, and engineers who relied on the engine each day. Their letters described minor issues, observations, and unexpected successes, forming a tapestry of perspectives that helped Watt understand the engine's evolving role. He responded with clarity and kindness, offering advice grounded in experience and careful reasoning. These exchanges created a sense of connection between him and the community shaped by his invention, bridging distances through the shared language of practical purpose. As production increased, Watt also noticed how steam power influenced the skill sets of workers who interacted with the machinery. Some learned to monitor pressure gauges with an attention that resembled listening to music, sensing shifts that others might overlook. Others became adept at repairing valves, adjusting motion, and maintaining lubrication in ways that kept engines running smoothly. Watt valued these developments, recognizing that the success of steam depended on both the machine and the people who tended to it with quiet dedication. Beyond the factory walls, steam began influencing the rhythm of domestic life as well. Families relied on stable employment to plan their households, educate their children, and build routines that once felt uncertain. Markets grew steadily, supported by the consistent flow of goods produced through steam-driven labor. Watt reflected on these subtle changes with gentle pride, understanding that while he had not set out to reshape society, his work had offered people a new sense of reliability in an unpredictable world. The engine's influence also reached the world of art and literature, inspiring writers who saw steam as a symbol of human ingenuity. Poets described the harmonious dance of pistons and rods, while painters captured the soft rise of chimney smoke, blending with morning fog. Watt read about these interpretations with quiet amusement, aware that the machine he viewed as a practical tool had become a source of cultural reflection. He appreciated these expressions, sensing that they revealed how deeply the engine had settled into the imagination of the time. As steam power continued to spread, Watt found moments of stillness to reflect on how far the engine had come. He recalled the early challenges, the fragile prototypes, the uncertain experiments, the long nights spent observing subtle movements under candlelight. Comparing those memories to the calm strength of engines running across the nation, he felt a gentle sense of fulfillment. The machine had matured alongside him, growing from a fragile idea into a steady force that supported countless lives. Yet even in these reflective moments, Watt remained aware that steam power continued evolving. New applications emerged slowly, shaped by the needs of different industries and the creativity of individuals who understood the engine intimately. Watt encouraged these developments with thoughtful interest, believing that invention should remain a living process rather than a fixed achievement. He valued the quiet collaboration between himself and the generations of engineers who learned from his work while adding their own insights. The landscape of Britain, once defined by rivers, windmills, and manual labor, now carried the subtle marks of steam's presence. Fields were dotted with engine houses, towns with factories, and roads with carts transporting goods made possible by consistent power. Watt saw this change not as a replacement of the past, but as a continuation of the same steady pursuit of progress that had guided humanity for centuries. The engine had simply offered a new rhythm, one calm, predictable, and full of potential. As the decade moved forward, Watt sensed that the story of steam was entering a new stage. What had begun as a singular invention was now part of a broader transformation involving many minds, hands, and communities. The engine's growth felt natural, as though it had always been waiting for the moment when society was ready to embrace it. Watt welcomed this evolution with quiet humility, grateful that his life's work had found a place where it could serve with gentle purpose. And in this soft unfolding of change, Watt prepared himself for the next phase of the journey, aware that steam's future extended far beyond his own. The engine had woven itself into the fabric of the nation, becoming a calm companion to progress and a symbol of what thoughtful invention could achieve. With steady resolve, he stepped into the next chapter, guided by the same patient curiosity that had shaped his path from the very beginning. As steam became woven into the daily rhythm of British life, Watt observed how communities gradually reshaped themselves around its quiet reliability. Markets stayed open longer, supported by factories that no longer depended on sunlight or seasonal flows of water. Towns that once struggled during hard winters now carried a gentle steadiness that allowed families to plan for the future with greater confidence. Watt watched these changes with thoughtful reflection, sensing that steam had become a subtle but powerful companion to progress. The consistency of steam power encouraged new trades to flourish. As specialized craftsmen emerged who understood the engine's temperament with remarkable intuition. These individuals developed a calm expertise, recognizing early signs of strain and knowing exactly how to adjust valves, tighten joints, or regulate pressure. Watt admired their commitment, grateful that the engine inspired such care and attentiveness. Their skill helped maintain a culture of thoughtful maintenance, ensuring that each machine continued running with gentle precision. As steam became more deeply rooted in industry, engineers began exploring ways to adapt machinery to the engine's smooth, continuous motion. Workshops reorganized their equipment to take advantage of the engine's steady strength, aligning processes to create harmonious workflows that reduced physical exertion. Watt felt encouraged by these developments, recognizing how naturally people were learning to collaborate with the engine rather than fight against it. This emerging harmony reflected his original vision of machines supporting human effort with quiet grace. The growing stability brought by steam encouraged factory owners to invest in safer working environments, knowing that reliable power allowed them to design spaces with clarity and purpose. They introduced better lighting, smoother floors, and reorganized workstations to reduce hazards. Watt appreciated these efforts, understanding that innovation carried its greatest value when it contributed to well-being. These improvements unfolded gently, driven by practicality rather than grand declarations, strengthening the bond between workers and the machines they tended. As letters continued arriving from sites across Britain, Watt noticed how operators described not only technical observations, but emotional shifts brought by steam power. Many wrote of feeling more secure in their work, grateful for the reduction in uncertainty that had once accompanied each workday. Others shared how the engine's consistency allowed families to rely on stable income, supporting education, housing, and community growth. Watt felt deeply moved by these accounts, sensing how the engine had quietly influenced lives beyond the factory walls. During this time, the Soho manufactory expanded its training programs to ensure that future generations of mechanics understood the philosophy behind the engine, not just its technical components. Watt encouraged students to approach steam with patience and respect, urging them to view the machine as a system of relationships between heat, motion, and balance. His calm teaching style shaped a culture of thoughtful engineering that would guide the industry for years to come. He believed that understanding grew best through gentle observation and steady practice. Beyond industrial settings, steam began to influence the structure of towns as new buildings, warehouses, and workshops emerged to support expanding production. Streets widened to accommodate larger carts, storage areas grew in size, and communities organized their spaces around the gentle glow of engine houses. Watt observed these changes with a quiet blend of wonder and humility, remembering how steam had once been only a theoretical curiosity in his early experiments. Now it shaped the physical and social contours of countless regions. As the nation adjusted to the gentle strength of steam, some thinkers began discussing how this new era might influence future generations. They wrote about the balance between human intention and mechanical consistency, exploring ideas about how work, time, and progress would evolve. Watt read these reflections with calm curiosity, acknowledging the depth of thought they represented while remaining focused on the engine's practical purpose. He believed that true understanding emerged through experience, not speculation. In quieter moments, Watt traveled through towns touched by steam power, observing how calmly people interacted with the machines that now supported their livelihoods. He saw children playing near factories, their games accompanied by the soft hum of rotating gears. He noticed shopkeepers organizing goods made possible by consistent production, and families stepping into routines shaped by steady employment. These scenes filled him with peaceful contentment, reinforcing his belief that invention should nurture life rather than disrupt it. Even as steam became more common, Watt remained aware of the need for continuous improvement. He studied how long-term use affected wear on specific components, exploring ways to extend the engine's lifespan without complicating its design. These refinements reflected his belief that progress should unfold gradually, guided by careful reflection rather than haste. Watt approached each improvement with the same calm curiosity that had shaped his earliest innovations, trusting that subtle changes would yield lasting benefits. Over time, the engine's influence began reaching regions beyond Britain, carried by merchants, engineers, and travelers who recognized its potential for supporting industry across different landscapes. Watt responded to inquiries with gentle guidance, offering practical advice while encouraging local adaptation. He understood that each region possessed its own needs, climate, and resources, and he believed that the engine should be embraced in ways that honored those differences. This thoughtful approach helped steam spread with steadiness rather than force. Back in Birmingham, the manufactory continued operating with a sense of orderly calm, producing engines that reflected years of refinement and collective effort. Watt moved through the workshops with quiet pride, grateful for the skilled hands that shaped the iron and brass into machines of gentle strength. He valued the trust that connected the workers, engineers, and operators who formed the living network around the engine. This shared purpose reaffirmed his belief that invention thrived through cooperation. As the decade matured, Watt found himself drawn into moments of reflection about the passage of time. He compared the world around him to the world of his youth, recognizing how differently people understood work and progress. Steam had introduced a new rhythm, steady, predictable, and gently transformative. Watt felt humbled by the engine's role in this shift, aware that its influence would continue unfolding long after his own chapter had passed. He welcomed this knowledge with peaceful acceptance, and as he prepared for the next stage of his journey, Watt sensed that steam's story had only begun. The engine had found its place in Britain, not as a symbol of disruption, but as a quiet companion to human effort. Its gentle motion supported communities, strengthened industries, and offered a path toward a future shaped by thoughtful progress. With calm resolve, Watt stepped forward, ready to continue nurturing the invention that had grown alongside him, one steady, balanced breath of steam at a time. As the years passed and steam power settled firmly into Britain's industrial identity, Watt felt a subtle shift within himself, an awareness that his life's work had reached a calm maturity. Factories now ran with a steadiness that once felt unimaginable, and towns built their futures around the quiet certainty of mechanical rhythm. Watt observed this transformation not with prideful ownership, but with a peaceful sense of completion. He recognized that the engine had taken on a life of its own, woven into the daily breath of the nation. The manufactory at Soho continued to hum with orderly purpose, its workshops filled with the disciplined sounds of crafting and refinement. Workers moved with practiced ease, assembling engines that reflected decades of accumulated knowledge. Watt walked among them with gentle familiarity, offering quiet guidance when needed, but finding comfort in how smoothly they carried the work forward. He sensed that the partnership he and Bolton had nurtured had grown into something enduring, an institution defined by balance, clarity, and thoughtful precision. During this period, Watt spent more time reflecting on the evolution of steam, tracing its path from fragile prototype to trusted companion of industry. He remembered the early doubts, the moments of uncertainty, and the careful experiments that had taught him the language of heat and pressure. These memories brought him neither regret nor nostalgia, but a quiet gratitude for the gradual unfolding of discovery. Watt saw his journey not as a series of achievements, but as a steady conversation with nature, answered one gentle insight at a time. As Britain continued to grow, new voices entered the world of engineering, young minds eager to understand the principles that shaped the engine. Some visited Watt seeking guidance, while others learned from the machines themselves, studying motion, heat, and force with attentive fascination. Watt welcomed these interactions with the same calm generosity that had defined his approach since youth. He believed that knowledge should be shared freely, carried forward by those who approached it with patience and respect. The growing interest in mechanical science prompted universities and academies to integrate STEAM principles into their teachings. Students gathered around models and diagrams tracing the flow of heat through condensers and the balance of forces within pistons. Watt watched this shift with a warm sense of satisfaction, knowing that the concepts he once struggled to articulate were now becoming part of the foundation for new generations. He felt humbled that his work served as both tool and teacher in the evolving world of science. Even as he aged, Watt's curiosity remained as steady as ever. He continued to analyze patterns in long-term engine performance, noting how materials behaved under decades of heat and pressure. These reflections led him to new refinements, subtle adjustments that extended the life of components and reduced the engine's need for maintenance. Though he no longer felt the urgency of earlier years, he still found joy in discovering ways to bring greater harmony to the machine's motion. In quiet moments, Watt often sat by the window of his study, observing the distant chimneys that marked the presence of engines running across Birmingham. Their gentle plumes of smoke rose into the sky with unhurried grace, becoming part of the soft tapestry of the landscape. These simple sights reminded him of the profound connection between invention and daily life. The engines he once built with trembling hands were now part of the horizon steady, familiar, and comforting. Watt also found himself reflecting on the relationships that had shaped his path. He thought of Bolton, whose unwavering support had provided the structure needed for invention to flourish. He thought of the craftsmen whose hands gave form to ideas, and the operators who cared for the engines as though tending a living companion. These reflections filled him with deep appreciation, reminding him that the story of steam was not written by a single mind, but by a community working in quiet harmony. Throughout these years, Watt remained deeply aware of the balance between progress and responsibility. He understood that steam brought opportunities but also challenges, changes in labor, shifts in communities, and new rhythms shaping the lives of countless people. Watt approached these realities with calm consideration, believing that invention should serve humanity thoughtfully rather than indiscriminately. His gentle philosophy guided his decisions, ensuring that the engine's growth aligned with the well-being of those who relied on it. As demand stabilized, Watt found more time to explore ideas beyond the engine, drawing sketches of instruments, mechanisms, and experimental concepts that had quietly occupied his imagination. Some were practical, while others served only as exercises in curiosity. These explorations reminded him of the early joy he felt when holding compasses, lenses, and simple tools, objects that had awakened his fascination with the hidden patterns of the world. Watt embraced these moments with gratitude, knowing they kept his mind anchored in what he loved most. Despite his growing distance from daily factory work, Watt remained a steady presence at Soho, offering measured wisdom that guided decisions without overwhelming them. His role evolved naturally, becoming more consultative, more reflective, and more rooted in his calm understanding of engineering's deeper purpose. Workers and engineers approached him with respect, valuing the thoughtful clarity he brought to every conversation. Watt felt humbled by their trust, grateful that his guidance still held meaning. Beyond the manufactory, Watt noticed how steam influenced not only labor, but the rhythm of society itself. Towns grew around engine houses, transportation networks expanded, and families built stable lives supported by reliable work. This new sense of predictability spread gradually across Britain, touching regions that had once faced uncertainty with each season. Watt observed these patterns with gentle appreciation, sensing how steam helped bring a quieter confidence to the world around him. And as he continued reflecting on the path ahead, Watt recognized that the engine had entered a stage of quiet consolidation. Its design was mature, its presence familiar, and its influence woven into the everyday workings of countless communities. The machine no longer needed bold innovation to prove its worth. It simply continued its gentle partnership with industry, supporting life through steady, reliable motion. Watt found peace in this realization, understanding that the true measure of invention lay not in grandeur, but in the enduring kindness of its purpose. As steam power continued expanding across the nation and beyond, Watt found comfort in observing how gracefully it adapted to different environments. Mines used it to drain deep shafts with steady persistence, while factories relied on its dependable rhythm to support intricate processes that once strained under irregular power. Watching these diverse uses brought Watt a sense of quiet fulfillment, reminding him that the engine had become more than a tool. It was a companion to human intention, capable of supporting many forms of work without demanding attention. In these years, Watt focused increasingly on refinement rather than reinvention, examining how small adjustments could improve longevity and stability. He studied the patterns of wear on cylinders, the way condensers behaved after years of use, and the quiet signals that indicated a machine needed rest or care. These insights emerged not through urgency, but through calm reflection, inspired by a deep desire to honor the trust that communities placed in his invention. Watt understood that excellence often grew from subtle, thoughtful improvement. Watt also spent more time mentoring younger engineers who came to Soho seeking knowledge. He welcomed their questions with patience, encouraging them to observe nature, experiment gently, and pursue solutions with steady determination. Many of these students carried his principles into their own work, shaping the next generation of industrial thinkers. Watt felt grateful for their enthusiasm, sensing that they represented the future of mechanical understanding. Their presence brought him renewed energy, even as he entered the later chapters of his life. As steam power became more common, Watt began receiving letters from places far beyond Britain, regions where early experiments with industrialization were beginning to take root. These correspondents sought guidance on adapting engines to new climates and unfamiliar materials. Watt responded with the same calm clarity he offered to engineers at home, emphasizing principles rather than rigid instructions. He believed that invention flourished when adapted thoughtfully to local needs, and he trusted others to shape steam in ways that respected their own environments. In quieter moments, Watt felt a gentle awareness of time moving forward, carrying both him and his invention into a future he could not entirely predict. He reflected on the countless hours spent measuring, calculating, and observing, the delicate balance of effort and contemplation that had shaped his career. These memories filled him with peaceful gratitude, reminding him that progress was not a sudden leap, but a steady journey built on patience and curiosity. Watt welcomed this understanding with humility. The world continued changing around him, guided by the calm persistence of steam and the ingenuity of those who embraced it. Towns expanded their workshops, families built stable livelihoods, and children grew up in communities defined by the quiet hum of machinery. Watt saw in these transformations the same pattern he had noticed in nature: gradual growth, gentle adaptation, and steady movement toward balance. He felt honored that his work had contributed to this unfolding harmony. Even as he stepped back from daily responsibilities, Watt remained connected to the manufactory and the people who shaped its success. He continued visiting the workshops, offering simple suggestions that carried years of experience within a few calm words. Workers respected him deeply, not because of his fame, but because they sensed the sincerity and gentleness behind every piece of guidance he offered. Watt valued these relationships, seeing them as essential threads in the fabric of his life's work. In moments of solitude, Watt often found himself contemplating the nature of invention itself. He believed that true progress emerged from the alignment of curiosity, patience, and quiet observation. The engine had grown not through ambition alone, but through the steady pursuit of understanding, an approach that reflected his own temperament. This realization brought him a sense of peace, confirming that he had followed the path that felt most honest to him. As he aged, Watt spent more time with family, sharing stories of earlier struggles and triumphs in gentle tones that reflected his calm spirit. He spoke not of fame or accomplishment, but of the small insights that had guided his path, the moments of clarity that arrived unexpectedly, and the satisfaction of seeing an idea take shape through the work of many hands. These reflections helped him feel anchored, reminding him that the heart of invention lay in curiosity rather than recognition. In the later years of his life, Watt revisited some of his earliest instruments, compasses, lenses, and small mechanical pieces crafted during his youth. Holding them brought back the quiet wonder that had sparked his love for engineering. He understood now that these childhood moments had been the beginning of a lifelong conversation with the natural world. The realization filled him with gentle joy, affirming that his journey had unfolded exactly as it needed to. And as the world continued moving forward with steam at its core, Watt recognized that his role in its unfolding story was nearing its natural close. Yet he felt no sadness, only a peaceful gratitude for having contributed to something that brought stability, opportunity, and calm progress to millions. The engine would continue evolving, guided by new minds and new generations, but its foundation would always reflect the quiet persistence that shaped Watt's life. He spent his final years surrounded by the gentle presence of family, the quiet respect of skilled engineers, and the calm hum of machines he had helped bring into the world. Watt felt a soft satisfaction in knowing that the principles he believed in, clarity, patience, and steady improvement, had taken root in the hearts of those who followed him. His story had become part of a greater tapestry, woven into the rhythm of a new era. And so, as our story draws to a close, we leave James Watt in the quiet glow of his later years, surrounded by the gentle pulse of the engines he brought into the world. His journey reminds us that true innovation does not shout. It does not demand attention. It grows slowly, steadily, shaped by patience, clarity, and a sincere desire to understand the world more deeply. Watt's life shows that even the most transformative ideas begin with small moments of curiosity. A question, a sketch, a quiet experiment illuminated by candlelight. Through persistence and humility, those moments can ripple outward, touching communities, shaping nations, and offering stability in uncertain times. As you drift into rest, let the calm rhythm of this story settle your thoughts. Let the gentle pulse of steam, the steady motion of pistons, and the peaceful determination of James Watt guide you into a place of stillness. In this quiet space, remember that meaningful progress, whether in life or in sleep, emerges not through force, but through steady, patient breath. Good night.